and a good sun and a good Sunday evening to you, everybody. Welcome to BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded, the drama-free true crime destination. As always, it's good to have you aboard. I'm Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw, and as promised on this week's edition, I'm going to talk about the case against 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick. She is accused of murdering both her mother and stepfather, and which still begs the question whether it's child killing parent or parent killing child. What are we becoming as a society? We're gonna build up to that, and we're gonna talk about that in depth. So get yourself a bite to eat, get yourself something to drink, right? Whatever you have to get, and let's get settled in because right now it is time for my opening statement. In a quiet Georgia home on a February night, two lives were extinguished. Kristen Brock and James Brock, a mother and stepfather, found dead from gunshot wounds. The alleged perpetrator? Their own daughter, 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick. Now charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault, Sarah Grace awaits a bond hearing on August 19th, which is next Tuesday. It's a moment that could determine whether she faces trial from behind bars or in the open air of a world she's accused of shattering. This case is not just about a crime committed. It's about the collapse of a family, the haunting silence of unanswered questions, and the eerie digital trail that followed. From cryptic TikTok messages to a younger sibling left to discover the horror, the narrative is as chilling as it is confounding. Her father, Daniel Patrick, has stood by her side, visibly anguished, insisting on her innocence while the public wrestles with disbelief. As we approach the bond hearing, we must ask, what does justice look like when the accused is a child of the victims? What truths lie beneath the surface of this tragedy? And how to hold space for grief, accountability, and the possibility, however remote, of redemption. That's my opening statement for this evening, and let's get ready as we go through this week's docket, and hopefully it won't be as long as it was on last week, considering last week it was a fully loaded docket. And by the way, you can go ahead and drop me a line. Let me know how you feel about that opening statement. All right, let's get it. First off, we have 3 arrested in the manhunt for accused quadruple murder, Austin Drummond. Authorities were searching for a man wanted in the murders of the parents of Grant. Okay, time out. Tongue tied. Okay, let me try that again. Authorities searching for a man wanted in the murders of the parents, grandmother, and uncle of an infant found alone and alive in Tennessee have charged 3 others in connection with the killings. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation charged Tanaka Brown, age 29, 29-year-old Giovante Thomas, with accessory after the fact to first-degree murder. Investigators allege both men assisted 28-year-old Austin Robert Drummond in the murders. The TBI announced they also arrested Dorea Sanders and charged her with accessory after the fact of first-degree murder. Authorities have left many questions unanswered, including how the suspects allegedly helped Drummond, the manner in which the relatives were killed, and how the baby ended up in a car seat in the Tigrit area, roughly 40 miles from their bodies. Law enforcement officers were still searching for Drummond. The Bureau said in a news release announcing charges against Thomas, he should be considered armed and dangerous. Brown, who also faces one count of tampering with evidence, was arrested a day earlier. Thomas was in custody at the Madison County Jail on an unrelated charge and was set to be transferred to the Lake County Jail to be arraigned on the new charges, according to authorities. Brown was booked into Lake County Jail, according to authorities. He is also facing an additional charge with tampering with evidence. Telephone numbers for Thomas and Brown could not be located. Email messages seeking comment were sent to Brown. Authorities said they found the car they believe Drummond had been driving. It was located in Jackson, Tennessee, about 70 miles from where the bodies were discovered, and some 40 miles from where the baby was left. Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Director David Rauch said authorities believe the family murders were a targeted attack by Drummond, who had a relationship with the victims. The baby is safe and being cared for, according to authorities. Officials obtained warrants for Drummond that charged him with 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of aggravated kidnapping, and weapons offenses. His criminal history includes prison time for robbing a convenience store and threatening to go after jurors. He was also charged with attempted murder while behind bars. No listed Ford number for Drummond could be found. An attorney who represented him as a teenager has not returned messages from the Associated Press. Authorities have identified the 4 people found dead in Tiptonville as 21-year-old James M. Wilson, 20-year-old Adriana Williams, 38-year-old Courtney Rose, and 15-year-old Braden Williams. Wilson and Adriana Williams were the parents of the infant who was found abandoned. Rose was Adriana and Braden Williams' mother. Oh, but just wait, guys. I am so not through with this one yet, because not only did they get those accessories, they got the man himself. Hang tight. After the days-long manhunt, they got Austin Robert Drummond. The man wanted in the killings of the parents, grandmother, and uncle of an infant found abandoned in a front yard in western Tennessee has been arrested, according to police. 28-year-old Austin Robert Drummond was taken into custody amid a search, police in Jackson said in a social media post. His arrest came shortly after police had warned residents of Jackson, which is about 74 miles away from the crime scene in Tiptonville, to stay inside their homes, having received a report that he was spotted in a neighborhood. Drummond is expected in court in Tiptonville for arraignment later this week. He faces 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of aggravated kidnapping, and weapons offenses, according to officials. It was not immediately clear whether he had an attorney who could speak on his behalf. An automated message from the Public Defender's Office said to call back later. Dyer and Lake County's District Attorney Danny Goodman told the Associated Press in a phone interview Tuesday that he has yet to decide if he'll seek the death penalty, but said it was very likely he would. Let's go to coverage, likely a press conference right now via Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott. We have breaking news out of Tennessee, where a news conference is being held regarding the capture of suspect Austin Drummond. Drummond was arrested earlier this morning after having been on the run since last week. He is the person accused of killing 4 members of the same family and then abandoning an infant who was alive, thankfully. The bodies of those 4 family members were found in a wooded area in Lake County, Tennessee, and the baby again was found safe on somebody's front lawn in Dyer County. Let's go in for the press conference.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm the Public Information Officer for the West Region of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. We couldn't be more relieved today to share with you an update that Austin Drummond is in custody. That is a significant win for all the dedicated agencies that worked tirelessly over the past week to bring him to justice. We want to thank the community for the incredible help. This successful apprehension was made possible by the countless tips and unwavering support that we received from you, the citizens. Without your partnership and willingness to come forward with information, this arrest would not have been made possible. Thank you for being the eyes and ears. After everyone speaks, we will open it up for questions, but please note this is an ongoing investigation, and you're going to have questions that absolutely cannot be answered at this time. With me here today to provide more information on the capture of Austin Drummond is TBI Director David Roush, Jackson Police Chief Tom Corley, U.S. Marshal Western District of Tennessee Tyrese Miller, 29th Judicial District Attorney General Danny Goodman, 26th Judicial District Attorney General Jody Pickens, Lake County Sheriff Brian Avery, Dyer County Sheriff Jeff Fox, and Madison County Sheriff Julian Weiser.
Thank you, Kim, and thanks to each and every one of you that are here today. Let me start by making it very clear. This is a phase of the effort. The capture is a phase. We will move into the next phase. We've already started that at this time. So this is not done by any means. This is just we are now able to move to the next phase. So I do want to say thank you. This is a perfect example of police community cooperation. And there is no better example for this country of the effort that has gone into this week-long challenge, trying to find the suspect after the horrible, tragic deaths of the family that was taken from the Lake County community. And so I do want to say thank you to the local, state, and federal agencies that all came together tirelessly, working 24 hours a day for an entire week until today, when finally we were able to get the lead we needed to find the suspect and get him into custody. It also took a very vigilant community, and so we're very appreciative of everyone here in Jackson for being vigilant, paying attention, and especially for the calls today that led us on the path that led to this capture. And so we are so appreciative of a community that cares and a community that is looking out for the safety of everyone here. So I want to make sure we express that. And again, I can't tell you how proud we are of the amazing team of police that have worked on this from our various levels within government. It shows what can happen when we put everything aside with a focus on mission. And so I want to reiterate how important that has been and how proud we are of all that were engaged in this to be able to come to today's phase in our effort. And so with that, I will turn it over to the specifics of the capture over to the Chief Constable for testimony.
praising the community and saying this was a combination of perfect police work and community work that has caused Austin Drummond to be arrested. They have worked tirelessly, and they thank the community for being the eyes and the ears that led to the arrest of Austin Drummond. Let's see if we can go back in.
Loved ones from this vicious crime of Lake County. We're praying for you. No words can fully capture the depth of your pain, but please know that you're not alone and the Jackson community mourns with you. Again, we're here today to confirm that Austin Drummond has been taken into custody. More importantly, his capture occurred without any further harm to the public or to any law enforcement officers. The outcome, as the director referred to, is the direct result of incredible coordination, skill, and determination shown by our local, state, and federal partners. It's a powerful example of what can happen when law enforcement agencies work together with the community who have a shared mission and a singular focus. I'd like to take a moment to recognize and sincerely thank the agencies who played a role in this effort. The Federal Bureau of Investigation and the United States Marshal Service, from our state partners, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, Tennessee Highway Patrol, and the Tennessee Department of Homeland Security, and local law enforcement, the Jackson Police Department Special Operations Division, our Patrol Division, our Criminal Investigation Unit, and our JPD dispatchers and communications, and also the Madison County Sheriff's Department. Each of these agencies brought their resources, their people, and their expertise to the table, and they did so with excellence. I'd like to pause right now, though, and just, I'm a little biased, but I'm going to talk about the Jackson Police Department for just a minute. From the moment this case unfolded, you never hesitated. Our dispatchers, patrol officers, special operations, investigators, each of you demonstrated bravery, precision, and tireless dedication, even in the face of danger. Your courage has not gone unnoticed, and the citizens of this community are proud of you, and I'm deeply thankful for you. To briefly cover the apprehension this morning, I want to first address the process that led up to it. As you're aware, for the past several days, law enforcement have been focusing on specific areas of the city based upon some intelligence, some physical evidence, and technology. From discovering the vehicle near MCO Road and the intelligence which led us to the area off of Pleasant Plains Drive, these type fugitive search operations are most typically made in a methodical fashion. When covering areas, particularly wooded areas, a cursory search is not sufficient for community safety. And I know that's difficult to have patience for. I know several of you probably didn't get a lot of sleep because the helicopters flying around and the officers being in your neighborhood. And I know that's tough, but for the last few days, that's what's been transpiring. This morning, however, a couple of encounters with Drummond changed that methodical search to a dynamic one. Just after 8 o'clock a.m., we received multiple calls of sightings of the suspect. Placing resources there immediately resulted in an additional citizen's call at about 8:57 a.m. We took advantage of that quickly evolving situation and made the arrest at 9:05 a.m. I'd like to introduce you right now to Officer Trout, Officer Compton, and Officer Drown. They were there right at the right spot and reacted immediately and are responsible for the apprehension of Austin Drummond. As this case moves forward, any additional charges or prosecutorial decisions from any action that may have occurred within Jackson will be deferred to District Attorney Jody Pickens. We will continue to support his office and the TBI as this process unfolds and ensure that every step toward justice is taken thoroughly and properly. Today, again, we find some peace in knowing that the suspect is no longer a threat, but remain committed to the families, the community, and to justice. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Tonight, families in West Tennessee can sleep more soundly. Austin Drummond is once again behind bars. He is suspected of an unthinkable crime that put all of us, an entire city and area, on edge. He thought he could outrun us, but he was wrong. That's because together we cannot be stopped. Law enforcement from every level and the people who call West Tennessee home did our parts. We worked long hours, neighbors stayed vigilant, agencies donated reward money, and someone saw something. They saw something out of the ordinary this morning and did what he was supposed to do. Because of that action, Drummond is in custody. Thank you to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation for leading this investigation, to the FBI for their unwavering support, and to the men and women of the Jackson Police Department and local agencies such as the Madison County Sheriff's Office, Dyer County Sheriff's Office, Lake County Sheriff's Office, and
See something, say something, really making a difference. They received a call at 8 a.m. this morning. At 8:57 a.m. this morning, the suspect was arrested at 9:05 a.m. Pretty amazing. We're going to take a break. Of course, we're going to bring you more of that press conference right on the other side.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, a former naval officer accused of murder.
to the families in Lake County who lost loved ones, men and women of the United States Marine.
Go back in to hear more from that news conference. Breaking news, we're in Tennessee where law enforcement is holding a news conference regarding the capture of suspect Austin Drummond. He was arrested at 9:05 a.m. this morning after having been on the run since last week. He's accused of killing 4 members of the same family and then abandoning an infant. Let's go back in to hear more from that news conference.
And other agencies who show up every day to answer the call to duty. And to the men and women of the United States Marshal Service, thank you, thank you. Your relentless commitment to duty is unmatched. To the families in Lake County who lost loved ones, Drummond's arrest cannot restore what has been taken from you. We only hope that we could have helped give you assurance that justice will be had. And to the baby girl who will tell one day her story of survival, we look forward to all that you will do. God bless West Tennessee, and God bless America. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. First thing I'd like to do is once again give our condolences to the family of the victims in this case. We have numerous victims, so obviously we have a lot of people in the communities that are hurting because of this, and we want them to know that we're going to do everything we can to seek justice in this matter. You know, this started almost 7 days ago to the exact minute. It was last Tuesday, a little after 3 p.m., when we got the first call of the infant who had been abandoned, and that started this whole process. I don't think I have ever seen so many agencies work together and work in sync. This has been so impressive. It has been what I would think should be a blueprint for the entire country, how to run an operation. You had numerous law enforcement agencies, not just 1 or 2. We're talking about that goes across all of West Tennessee, federal agencies, and they all put their pride aside and had one common goal, and they all did whatever they had to reach that goal. And because of that, today's a good day, and Austin Drummond is not going to be a threat to this community anymore. As Director Rouse said, this was phase 1. The real work starts, and the lengthy work will start at this point. Investigations do not end when a person is arrested. That's just the part to get them into custody. This investigation is going to go on for a good period of time. In addition to that, there will be lots of court appearances, lots of hearings, and we will do everything we can to ensure that the communities are kept safe, and we're going to do that by seeking justice in this case. I'm going to work with General Jody Pickens because we do have a case. This time it's a little bit different because we're going across a couple of different judicial districts. And because of that, he and I will be working closely together, but we will work together just as law enforcement did with one common goal, and that's going to be to make sure that we seek justice. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to General Jody Pickens.
Good afternoon. My name is Jody Pickens, and I'm the elected district attorney for the 26th Judicial District, which is comprised of Chester, Henderson, and Madison counties. Like the others who have gone before me, I would like to begin by saying that condolences go out to the families of these victims who lost their lives. And so we will continue to work to achieve justice for them. The other thing I would say that I want to say that we are very happy that we can, at this point, bring a degree of peace back to this community, which has been on edge since this incident, since they have learned that this person was back in our community. I, too, am a Madison County resident, and I just wanted to say that when it comes to law enforcement, we are blessed in this area. We don't have good law enforcement. We have great law enforcement. And as what has been said before, people put their differences aside and work toward a common goal. And that is why we are all standing here in front of you today. Because working together, they were able to bring some security to the region. General Goodman said, an arrest often is just the beginning of a prosecution. There will be the investigation will continue. I will continue to consult with our law enforcement partners, also consulting with General Goodman, because there will be some decisions made.
Thank you so much to Chrisanne Hall for joining us. Coming up, Michael Ayala is joining me for more of that news conference underway in Tennessee for the captured suspect, Austin Drummond. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott.
I'm Michael Ayala. In just a moment, we're going to be heading back out, of course, to following breaking news out of Tennessee, where law enforcement is holding a news conference regarding the capture of suspect Austin Drummond.
Drummond was arrested earlier this morning after having been on the run since last week. It's been 7 days. He's accused of killing 4 members of the same family and abandoning an infant.
The bodies of those 4 family members were found in a wooded area in Lake County, Tennessee. And the baby was found safe on somebody's front lawn in Dyer County, about 45 minutes away.
That's right. We want to go back in to hear more from law enforcement, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, at that news conference.
Some decisions made. We will be working towards making sure that anybody that may have had a hand in assisting Drummond will be held to answer for that. Those investigations will continue, and we just encourage the public, which has been so important and so engaged in this situation, to continue to provide that information that you may think doesn't matter, but which may in the end provide the break that law enforcement needs. So with that, I would say, God bless our state, God bless this community, and God bless America.
Good afternoon. My name's Brian Niggery. I'm the sheriff of Lake County. For those of you that don't know, Lake County is a county of about 7,000 people. It's kind of one of those counties where if one person hurt, we all hurt. And this happened right in our back door, and it put a lot of people on ease. And we all band together. Once this happened, we all band together. We all want to see this thing through. We all want to see it to the end. But today I want to say, share with our community, the Lake County community, the Madison County community, that Austin Drummond is in custody. This arrest is a significant step toward the ongoing investigation, and we are grateful of the outcome. I want to thank the local, state, and federal agencies that made this happen. Without them, Drummonds would still be free today. The community stepped up with the phone calls, the text messages, the emails. If it wasn't for them, we would still be searching. We would still be looking. To the families of the victims, please know that our thoughts and prayers remain with you. While this arrest brings some measure of relief, we realize that the road to healing is going to be a long one. We as a community continue to pray for the families affected, for those still processing the trauma of these events. Justice will continue to be pursued, and we will remain committed to doing everything we can to support those impacted. Thank you.
I'm Jeff Box, Dyer County Sheriff. This incident, the baby was dropped off in my county. The victims were residents of Dyer County. And I want to start today by recognizing those victims. I left the funeral home just before I got here today of one of the victims. I spoke with both his mom and dad, and they wanted me to sincerely thank with great, great gratitude each responding agency, each one of you up here, and each officer that responded to this tragic incident that put an evil sense in the air throughout Lake County, Dyer County, Madison County, and all across the state of Tennessee. So I want to begin thanking you from the family by calling those names that were tragically taken. Courtney Rose, Adriana Williams, Braden Williams, James Matthew Wilson. Their names deserve to be spoken. Their lives deserve to be remembered, and their families deserve justice. Our heart
place, so I'm just going to continue with the article as Anyway, Goodman said Drummond was shot to family members and that Drummond's girlfriend is the sister of the infant's grandmother. They were actually all associated with one another, Goodman said, so it wasn't a random attack. The search left the community situated on the Mississippi River in western Tennessee and more than 100 miles southwest of Nashville on edge, according to the district attorney. The biggest emotion has been fear. You don't usually hear about it in small towns much. A quadruple homicide. He added the two emotions are one is shock and the second would be fear. Hours before the arrest, Jackson police posted a roughly 20-second video surveillance clip showing someone they said was Drummond, wearing camouflage and carrying a firearm, trying to enter the door of an unspecified building. Jackson Police Chief Tom Corley said during a press conference that two calls from the public helped officers arrest Drummond, who had been staying in a vacant building near the woods where he was taken into custody. The investigation into the family's killings in Tiptonville began July 29th after an infant in a car seat was found in a front yard in the Tigard area, roughly 40 miles away. The Dyer County Sheriff's Office said in a statement that a caller reported a minivan or mid-sized SUV had dropped the infant at a random individual's front yard. The sheriff's office later said they were working with investigators in neighboring Lake County, where 4 people had been found dead. Officials determined those people and the child's were the child's parents, grandmother, and uncle. Authorities later identified those people as 21-year-old James M. Wilson, 20-year-old Adriana Williams, 38-year-old Courtney Rose, and 15-year-old Braden Williams. As I mentioned earlier, Wilson and Adriana Williams were the infant's parents, while Rose was Adriana and Braden Williams' mother. Investigators determined the 4 relatives had not been seen since the night before, according to Goodman. A relative had called 911 after finding 2 vehicles in a remote area, and the 4 bodies were found in nearby woods. TBI Director David Rauch said it's believed the killings were a targeted attack by Drummond. The baby, identified by Goodman as a girl, is safe and being cared for by other relatives. Goodman said authorities believe Drummond drove the baby from Tiptonville to Tigard, where she was left in a yard. The TBI has already charged 29-year-old Tanaka Brown and 29-year-old Giovanni Thomas with accessory after the fact to first-degree murder. Investigators allege both men assisted 28-year-old Drummond in the killings. DeRaya Sanders of Jackson was also arrested and charged with being an accessory after the killings. Drummond's criminal history includes prison time for robbing a convenience store and threatening to go after jurors. He's also charged with attempted murder while behind bars. An attorney who represented him as a teenager had not returned earlier messages from the AP. So, ladies and gentlemen, they got him. That's all there is to that. They got him. Now, the question of whether they'll seek the death penalty once he's arraigned, that remains to be seen. But I hope this doesn't turn out to be another Stephen Stearns or Brian Kohlberger. If the prosecutors are going to seek the death penalty, take no plea deals. Accept no plea deals. That if anything, Drummond should go right ahead and say flat out, get it over with. I'm guilty. There's no plea deal. Just flat out say I'm guilty. Okay, we're gonna try again. Get back to that press conference right now.
Break of what you are now facing. Please know that this community stands with you. We're lifting you up, and we will walk with you in the days and weeks to come. Thanks to the incredible collaboration that you see here on the stage and the determination of all law enforcement officers and partners, Austin Drummond has now been apprehended and charged with these victims' murders. We are thankful for a safe resolution to this manhunt, but we also recognize that these families, that the difficult journey is just beginning for them. I want to take a moment to thank those who helped make this possible. Sheriff Brian Avery from Lake County, Sheriff Troy Klass of Crockett County, and Sheriff Julian Weiser. The Jackson Police Department, whose partnership and response was unwavering. Our state partners, the TBI, Bureau of Investigation, who kept us informed every step of the way, and the Tennessee Highway Patrol. Our federal partners, the FBI and the U.S. Marshals. Every deputy, every officer, every dispatcher, and investigator who contributed to this effort, we thank you, as well as the public information officers, Kim Wheeler of the TBI, and Stephen Sutton, who led an important work of keeping the community and the public informed while we had boots on the ground working this case, assisting and working this case. Thank you to the community. We can't say enough about how your support and cooperation has been the best. Not only to keep yourself safe, but to help in his capture today. Let me be clear that the manhunt is over. The justice process is just beginning, just like General Goodman stated. We remain fully committed to continuing this investigation, including the vehicle that was found in Dyer County, the infant that was abandoned in Dyer County, every tip, every detail that we receive, every lead that will be followed through completely and thoroughly. Everyone has been very concerned about the well-being of the baby, and we're glad to report the baby is healthy and doing well. As we leave here today, let us join with the victim's friends and other family members as they lift up the victim's family in prayer for strength and support that they're going to need in the days ahead. So thank you.
Sheriff Julian Weiser, Madison County. I just want to say thank you to the community for the support, the prayers, and being vigilant. I got to witness some hard work this week. It was 5-6 days of high intensity. Local, state, federal law enforcement officers across this county. You know, every door that we opened, every structure we checked, we didn't know if Drummond's was going to be behind there. And to have that amount of intensity over 5 or 6 days, and our law enforcement personnel working 18 to 20 hours a day, they made an ultimate sacrifice to keep our community safe. And I want to personally thank them. I want to thank their families for standing by them. There's a lot of people behind the scenes as far as with TBI, intel analysts, support staff, the district attorney's office. You know, the troops in the field relied highly on our administrative staff. So they did a great job with providing us with intel. And I know the community will get some rest tonight. And it was amazing to see the hard work and commitment and sacrifice that our law enforcement personnel has made for our community. Thank you.
All right, that'll conclude the remarks. Are there any questions that we might be able to handle? Yes, sir, please.
Hi, Brett Tierney with WSMB 4 News in Nashville. What's the working motive at this point? Any idea, anything you can tell us on why he did this?
Yeah, and at this point on a working motive, we are unable to speak about that. Still all part of the investigative process at this time. Yes.
Imani Williams with Channel 5 out of Memphis. Drummond was out on bond for multiple charges out of Lake County and Trousdale County. One in Trousdale County being allegedly smuggling drugs inside of the jail, cell phones inside the jail. Will that impact his investigation right now?
In terms of his prior charges that he also has picked up while he was in prison, all of those certainly will be taken into consideration as we move forward in the justice process, as you've heard the generals speak to. So yes, all of his activities will be certainly considered, not only in our investigative effort and the justice process, but certainly in his housing and how he'll be managed going forward.
Yes, Billy, Fox 13. You know, we saw those 3 accomplices get picked up. Are y'all looking into Caitlin Speed?
Yeah, again, I appreciate the question in terms of, you know, those who were assisting Mr. Drummond as he was on the run. And I can tell you that we will continue to address those individuals, each that have been engaged. In terms of identifying specific individuals, I won't go into that at this time. Yes, ma'am.
Priya Sridhar with NBC News. I understand there's a connection between the suspect and the victim. Can you just speak to that relationship?
Yeah, in terms of the relationship between the suspect and the victims, the suspect's girlfriend is the sister of a victim, is the daughter of a victim, and is the sister of 2 victims. So yes, that's the familial connection at that point. Yes, ma'am. I'll let Chief Corley address that.
Sure. Yes. So the first call we got, he was out in that area. The second call that we got that led to the apprehension, he had been in that area and was in the woodline, I believe, the wood line right behind that. So, but as far as the location where he was standing or staying overnight or during the day, yes, it was an abandoned or a vacant, I should say, a vacant building.
Does he have any ties to that?
I don't believe so. I can't tell you that.
Was he armed when you found him?
No.
How long do you think he'd been in that pool house? I mean, was
I
this
couldn't tell you.
Right.
Not right now. We're investigating that.
I know you all talked about community support. There was a large reward out. Will somebody get that? Will you buy it? How will it work?
Yes. So in terms of the reward, what will happen is we will vet the information that we obtained and determine who would be appropriate to receive the award. So we'll look into that very specifically to determine who it will. More than likely, from what I have heard, there may be more than one person that will receive a portion of the award. And so that's what we'll be working on as well. Let me go back here and then I'll come back. Yes.
Mike Soriano with Channel 3 in Memphis. Can you talk a little bit about how he survived during this period of time in the woods? Was he getting help from the persons who've been charged in this case?
Yeah, Mike, in terms of how he was able to continue to be out on the run and those who assisted him. I won't be able to go into that because that's all part of this investigative process, and we can't go into those details yet at this time.
You know, you said you can't speak to motive. Do you have any idea why all those victims ended up in that same spot in Lake County?
Again, those are specifics about the investigative process. I won't go into details at this time. Yes, ma'am.
Was it surprising still to see that he was still in Jackson? And what was the challenge behind finding him?
Yeah, in terms of were we surprised that he was still in Jackson? I think I don't believe we weren't surprised that he was still here in the area. We know he was obtaining support. Obviously, as you know, we have arrested individuals that were providing that, and so it wasn't a surprise. Quite frankly, we thought he may try to run, and his history has shown he has left the state before, and so we were concerned about that, but we had a lot of confidence in the information we were getting, the intelligence we were getting, the technology that we were following that helped us with the assurity that we were honing in quickly on his location. Again, it was the community that really broke this for us. And I don't want to downplay that at all. All of the effort, all of the technology, all of the dog determination that we had was really came down to the community doing as was stated, seeing something and making that call. And that was critical for us to be able to be where we are today with this. I think we're going to get one more.
Ezekiel with ABC 24. You mentioned that Drummond wasn't armed. Was he able to recover the weapon that he was seen holding?
Yeah, I can tell you that, we did recover a couple weapons at this point, and we're still searching to see what else is out there. And so I would ask, again, a plea to the public. If you see something that you believe maybe was involved in this, don't touch it. Call right away. Let us get to it and process that scene. There are still pieces that we're trying to place together, and so there's still evidence out there that we need to gather. But we have recovered weapons. I can't speak to if those are the weapons that were used in the homicides, but I can tell you we have recovered a couple of firearms at this time.
One more question from
Yeah, I'm sorry. I cannot speak to the specifics of the weapons yet. All right. Yes, sir. Final.
Where is the baby? Where is Drummond? And did Drummond say anything once he was captured?
I can tell you in terms of Drummond, he has been transported to a facility. We won't state where he's at this point. And I can tell you that I won't tell you what took place after he was taken into custody. That's all part of our investigative process. In terms of the child, I will yield.
For the baby, we'd rather not say where the baby is now for its well-being, but it is safe, healthy, and being well taken care of.
All right. Again, thank you all We very much appreciate the help, especially throughout this. The media has been absolutely critical, pushing information as quickly as we could provide it to you, keeping a focus for the public on this. And so we again, this isn't just policing. This is our community. This is our great media doing a fine job. So thank you all as well for the effort that was put into this. We appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so that was the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation informing the public that Austin Drummond, a man charged with 4 counts of murder, has finally been apprehended after a number of days on the run since the end of last week, had been on the run. And again, all the kudos goes to community support, the importance of the community in helping them find this man.
Absolutely. It's been 7 days, and they said a call was received of a sighting at 8 a.m. this morning, another one at 8:57 a.m. this morning, and at 9:05, police arrested Austin Drummond. They're really focused on that, and at the same time, anything about Drummond, they're really not saying, because they're saying that's part of the ongoing investigation.
Yes, they said the baby is safe and being taken care of by family members, and finally, there were some firearms retrieved, but they could not say if those firearms were connected to the murders in this case, or either they don't know, they haven't been tested, or they just don't want to reveal that information as part of the investigation.
So, as I kept saying moments ago, they have Austin Drummond in custody. The baby is being taken care of. She's doing just fine. That's good news to hear. And it's gonna be a question of whether the prosecution in Drummond's case will seek the death penalty. If I were Drummond, I would just go ahead and just say, yeah, I did it, without a plea deal being offered, without anything on the table that says he'll get out of the death penalty. But then again, that's just the way I see things. Moving on to the next story on the docket. We have Eric Menendez back in prison after a stay in the hospital. I believe I have an update in that as well, if I'm looking down my docket. And yeah, okay. Hey, so I'm gonna start off with Eric Menendez back in prison after a stay in the hospital. Eric Menendez is back in prison after a hospital stay last month, according to prison records reviewed by Court TV, your front row seat to justice. The 57-year-old has been serving a life without parole sentence along with his brother Lyle Menendez after being convicted of murdering their parents in their Beverly Hills, California home in 1989. A judge recently resentenced the brothers to 50 years to life, making them immediately eligible for parole. They will appear before the State Parole Board on August 21st and 22nd. If the board determines they are eligible for parole, Governor Gavin Newsom must review the decision before they are released. Last month, Eric's lawyers sought his release from prison ahead of an upcoming parole hearing when he was hospitalized. His lawyer, Mark Garagos, told TMZ that Menendez was having a serious medical condition and should receive a prison furlough, something the governor granted some inmates during the COVID-19 pandemic. Garagos did not elaborate on the condition, but said releasing Menendez was the only fair and equitable thing to do, so he had time to prepare for his parole hearing properly. TMZ further reported that Eric had undergone several surgeries to remove kidney stones. But like I said, we also have an update in that where the DA is filing a response opposing a new trial for the brothers. Because this being that their bid for freedom is in jeopardy. Let's check this out. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office has filed a 132-page response opposing Eric and Lau Menendez's bid for a new trial. The office said the filing emphasizes the strength of the original convictions and the lack of any legitimate basis for a retrial. During their 1993 trial, the Menendez brothers testified they killed their parents in self-defense after suffering years of sexual abuse and feared they would be killed. Their first trial ended in 2 hung juries. During their second trial, Judge Stanley M. Weisberg ruled that no testimony of the sexual abuse allegations could be heard by the jury. The brothers were convicted of double murder in March of 1996 and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. A judge recently resentenced the brothers to 50 years to life, making them immediately eligible for parole. They will appear before the State Parole Board on August 21st and 22nd. If the board determines they are eligible for parole, Governor Gavin Newsom must review the decision before they are released. In May 2023, the defense filed a habeas petition claiming 2 new pieces of evidence would have likely changed the outcome of their second trials. The filing cited a letter Eric sent to his cousin 8 months before the murders of their parents and new rape allegations against Jose Menendez from ex-Menudo member Roy Rosello. Last month, a judge ordered prosecutors to explain why exculpatory evidence that supported the Menendez brothers' claim of sexual abuse was withheld from the jury during their second trial. In a statement, LA County District Attorney Nathan Hodgman said, quote, "The central defense of the Menendez brothers at trial has always been self-defense, not sexual abuse. The jury rejected its self-defense in finding them guilty of the horrific murders they perpetrated. 5 different appellate, state, and federal courts have affirmed those convictions, and nothing in the so-called new evidence challenges any of those determinations. Our opposition to this Hail Mary effort to obtain a new trial over 30 years later makes clear that justice, the facts, and the law demand the convictions stand." End quote. In their filing, prosecutors argued that the defense could have introduced the Kano letter at any point during the first 2 trials, given Eric's claim to have written it and both men testifying during the first trial, instead of waiting until 2023 to present it as new evidence. Prosecutors also detailed new witnesses who testified during the brothers' second trial that showed evidence of conspiracy to commit murder and attempts to fabricate evidence. A press release also states the following, quote, "The habeas corpus proceedings, which are intended only to determine if the Menendez brothers are entitled to a new trial, are running parallel to the Menendez brothers' parole suitability hearing scheduled for August 21st and 22nd. While this hearing was originally scheduled in June as a clemency proceeding, it has since been converted and rescheduled to determine parole eligibility. Once the eligibility determination has been made, Governor Gavin Newsom will then have 90 days to affirm, reverse, or modify that determination. Governor Newsom can also exercise his clemency power to pardon or release the Menendez brothers at any time since he took the oath of office in 2019." End quote. So now, the question remains, will this end up being the Menendez brothers' freedom, or is this bid for freedom in jeopardy because of the filing by the LA District Attorney? This is a wait and see conversation, and we will see exactly what comes next for the Menendez brothers. Alright, next up, I've got one more update on Austin Drummond. If I can get that real quick. Hold on, guys. Yeah, here we are, right here. The prosecutors are saying that in that case, they are planning to seek the death penalty for Austin Drummond. In fact, instead of me going to the article, I'm going to take you directly to Court TV right now. How to give you what was breaking news this past Friday. The prosecutors say they Austin Robert Drummond.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Matt Johnson in this afternoon for Julia Janae. Thanks for being with us. We begin this hour with breaking news in Tennessee, where the main suspect in the quadruple murder made his first court appearance today, just moments ago. We're just now getting in that feed from the court. Austin Drummond, right here, faces 4 counts of first-degree murder after he was arrested on Tuesday after a week-long manhunt. The bodies of these 4 victims were found in a wooded area in Lake County, Tennessee. They were identified as 20-year-old Adrian Williams, 21-year-old James Wilson, 38-year-old Courtney Rose, and 15-year-old Braden Williams. An abandoned baby was also found safe approximately 45 minutes away from the scene. Let's get you in now for the start of this hearing.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. Mr. Drummond, we are here this morning to arraign you on these charges. It's my responsibility to notify you of them and what you're charged with. First charge this morning that you have before the court is 1 count of first-degree murder. It's alleged that on 29th of July, Mr. Braden Williams was located deceased from apparent gunshot wounds on Carrington Road in Tiptonville in Lake County, Tennessee. During the course of the investigation, it was determined that Mr. Drummond did with premeditation knowingly and intentionally kill Mr. Braden Keith Williams with the use of a firearm. It's alleged he did commit this offense also while being in possession of a firearm after being convicted of a felony being aggravated robbery in Madison County, Tennessee. He is 1 count, therefore, of first-degree murder and unlawful possession of a firearm. Second charge you have, sir, is first-degree murder and 1 other count of unlawful possession of a firearm. It's alleged during the course of the investigation that James Wilson was located deceased from apparent gunshot wounds in Lake County, Tennessee on Carrington Road. It was determined that you with premeditation knowingly and intentionally killed Mr. Wilson with the use of a firearm. It's also alleged, based on the same facts or circumstances, that you are a convicted felon out of Madison County. In addition to that, sir, you also have 1 count of first-degree murder and unlawful possession of a weapon. It's alleged that you, during the course of investigation, officers determined that Mr. Drummond, with premeditation, knowingly and intentionally killed Miss Adriana Williams in Lake County, Tennessee, on Carrington Road. She was discovered from an apparent gunshot wound, deceased. In addition to that, he also is a convicted felon out of Madison County, Tennessee. You also, sir, have 1 count of first-degree murder and an additional unlawful possession of a weapon. It's alleged during the course of the investigation, officers determined that you did with premeditation knowingly, intentionally kill Miss Courtney Rose with the use of a firearm. She was discovered deceased from apparent gunshot wounds on Carrington Road in Lake County, Tennessee. It's alleged, in addition to that, sir, as previously stated, you are a convicted felon allegedly from the county of Madison in Tennessee. Ms. Jessica, we have the other charge. I don't have anything. Sorry about that, Mr. Drummond. In addition to that, finally, he has 1 count of aggravated kidnapping and a possession of a firearm during the commission of a dangerous felony. It's alleged that all of the victims in the case that previously were mentioned were located deceased from apparent gunshot wounds on the same day. A minor child with the date of birth 12/12/2024 with the initials WW was discovered left in the front of a residence in Dyer County, Tennessee. states that Mr. Drummond committed the offense of aggravated kidnapping by false imprisonment, which was committed to facilitate the commission of a felony or flight. It's alleged he committed this offense also possessing a firearm during the commission of said dangerous felony when he possessed a firearm. He therefore has those counts. General Goodman, is the state moving forward with felony charges in this matter?
Yes, Your Honor, we are.
Mr. Drummond, I'm going to enter a not guilty plea for you at this time on your behalf, being that you did not have counsel appointed or retained to represent you. Are you going to be able to hire an attorney, sir, to represent you, or will you need me to ask you questions about your finances to appoint you an attorney?
I'm not going to be able to hire an attorney.
Okay. Sir, if you could, to the best of your ability, please raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is true, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
You put your hand down, sir. Mr. Drummond, prior to being taken in on these charges, sir, were you working anywhere?
I had a business, decided to run business, kids parties, part-time shows, decorations, stuff like that.
So you were self-employed, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now this is what I'm going to ask you, sir. Obviously, that may vary depending on how much business you generate monthly. If you could estimate for me what your monthly income would be from that business.
It varied, but it was around $4,000 to $6,000.
Okay. Okay.
Excuse me, a lot of it, I was just starting up. A lot of the money to run right back in to invest in it.
When did you start the business, sir?
I started LLC in February. I believe I started operations just a month or two ago.
Just a month or two ago? Okay. Sir, let me ask you, do you own a home? Do you own a vehicle? I'm sorry?
I live in cities right now.
Okay. Can you tell me the make and model of the vehicle, sir?
And Cali Lake.
Okay. You recall how much you paid for that vehicle?
$12,000.
Okay. Are you still, are you making payments on the vehicle?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you have a checking or savings account, sir?
Yes.
Do you know roughly at this moment how much is in that checking or savings account?
$500.
Gerald, I think due to the sort of uncertainty of his business, I think that based on that, and if he doesn't own much personal property, I think he does qualify as indigent for appointment of counsel. I have reached out previously to Mr. Brian Huffman out of Covington, and he has told me he is willing to take the appointment in this case. So what I'm going to do is appoint Mr. Brian Huffman to represent Mr. Drummond in this case. Mr. Drummond, Mr. Brian Huffman is an attorney in Covington, Tennessee. He is going to be appointed in this case to represent you, sir. We're going to get his contact information to you, and also we're going to get his information for where to contact him, locate him, and be able to discuss your case with him. We'll be happy to get that to you, and we're going to send you his files we're going to send your files to his office for him to review that. Okay. General, does the state wish to be heard on bond at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, at this time, the state intends to seek the death penalty. This is a capital case. We're asking that he be held without bond. In addition to that, he has a bond out of circuit court. We have filed motions to revoke those bonds. That will be heard later in the month of August in circuit court.
Mr. Drummond, what I'm going to do before I make a position on bond, I'm going to ask you some questions, sir. And if this information is not correct, sir, please just tell me if it is not, okay? Can you still hear me okay, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 16 O'Neill Oakway, Apartment E in Jackson. Is that a good address for you, sir?
Jackson, Tennessee, 3801.
Okay. How long have you lived at that address, sir? I'll make it easier. How long have you lived in the city of Jackson?
Since I was released in September of last year.
Okay. Before you were incarcerated on your previous charge, where were you living at?
Tennessee.
Okay, so for the majority of your life, have you lived in Jackson, Tennessee?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have any family in Lake County, Tennessee? I'm not going to ask him questions about whether he's a prior convicted felon. I obviously don't want him to incriminate himself for that purpose. Folks, in the state of Tennessee, bond is a guaranteed right, with the exception of one incident when it's a capital offense and when the proof is evident or it's great. Based on the affidavits I've read here today, it does appear that for purposes of bond, in addition to not only what the statute says, but first and foremost, that it's the court's responsibility to take into consideration the safety posed to the community. The court finds that the defendant will be held without bond and will be remanded into the custody of the Lake County Sheriff's Department, pending all appearances and hearings in this matter.
May I address one other issue?
Yes, sir.
The state is also requesting a restraining order, not just as a condition of bond, but as a restraining order besides that. And that would be for the family of victims Courtney Rose, Adriana Williams, Braden Williams, and James Williams.
Mr. Drummond, let me go over with you, sir, what the general has said.
I'm sorry. And also the minor child, WW, who was the minor child.
Yes, sir. I was going to include that, Drummond. I appreciate you mentioning that. Mr. Drummond, what I'm going to do is, this is something that obviously you do not have this in front of you at the moment. I'm going to be sending to you in a moment through one of our deputies to the jail. We're going to be sending you a form called Notice of Bond Conditions. What that's going to tell you is that you have bond conditions that you must follow. Obviously, if you are incarcerated, you will not be out on bond. And if you were to be granted bond at a later date, then these bond conditions would apply. But your bond conditions are you have no contact with any of the family members of the victims in this matter, the alleged victims in this matter, Ms. Courtney Rose, Ms. Adriana Williams, Braden Williams, and Matthew Wilson. In addition to that, sir, you cannot possess a firearm under any circumstances, and you cannot have any contact as well with the minor child that's alleged to be involved in this incident. The court is also going to put a condition down that you must keep in contact with your attorney, Mr. Brian Huffman. In addition to that, sir, the court is going to issue restraining orders separate from your bond conditions that state you must not have any contact with these victims at all throughout the entire cause of action. The court is going to send those over to you. You will be served a copy of those. I told Mr. Huffman I did not discuss the possibility. I wanted to wait until he's officially appointed. If your office would like me to go ahead and set another appearance date before the preliminary hearing, I'm fine to do that, General. What's the state?
Yeah, we set the others for August 14th. We'd like to keep all these together and set that date if possible.
Mr. Drummond, I'm going to continue your case to August 14th, sir, at 9 a.m. Mr. Huffman will be in contact with you prior to that to go over your case, and he will be able to hopefully answer any questions that he has for you, sir, okay, or that you have for him. I apologize. We will see you back here then, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. As long as it's not related to the facts of your case or anything that could infringe on your Fifth Amendment rights, I'm fine with that, sir.
I'm just wondering, is now the time I need to ask for a quick expedient trial? How's that?
Well, now that I've appointed you counsel, any motions that will be filed will go through your attorney, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. All right, folks, the case is continued to August 14th at 9 o'clock. Thank you. We are going to also take a...
All right, so that is suspect Austin Drummond in the abandoned baby family murders case that we've been following. There was that weeks-long manhunt. He's appeared in court, that first appearance. No bond granted because now we hear from prosecutors that they're seeking the death penalty. And right after the hearing, Lake County District Attorney Danny Goodman spoke with reporters. Let's watch.
Mr. Goodman, first kind of just an overview for this morning's hearing. You also stated that the state does plan to pursue the death penalty in this case?
Yes, at this time we do.
What kind of is all the decision making that goes behind deciding to pursue charges that severe?
Well, there are aggravating factors in Tennessee. We have to look at those statutory factors, and I think that he does meet the ones that we have to have, so we're going to seek the death penalty.
And then are you obviously satisfied with the judge's decision to revoke the bond?
He didn't actually revoke the bond. That's a petition that we have filed to be heard in circuit court. That will be done later this month. He's actually just holding him without bond.
Gotcha.
And that was the state's request.
So that August 14th date, is that going to be the bond hearing to decide whether or not it gets revoked?
No. The August 14th date is here in general sessions. The petition we have filed is in circuit court for the revocation.
Gotcha. How complicated can this case become, knowing this is now multiple jurisdictions involved, and then multiple agencies involved too?
Yeah, it is going to be more complicated because of that. Fortunately, I am a district attorney for 2 of the counties that it occurred in, so that's going to leave just one other county with District Attorney Jody Pickens. He and I have already talked, and we're going to work together with those.
All right, here to discuss, I want to welcome my guest for this hour. Joining us from Los Angeles, California, we have criminal defense attorney Danny Rubin. Danny, nice to see you. So how does the death penalty now on the table change trial prep for this one?
I mean, this is the most serious penalty you can have. So, I mean, it's going to impact everything from how they look at bond to how they prep for the case. And essentially, you're looking at the possibility of, if you lose, your client is going to be put to death. This is the most stressful case you can take on. The evidence is going to be looked at thoroughly. And I think also the defense attorney will be looking at whether or not there are any plea agreements on the table to avoid the death penalty.
Yeah, like we've seen in a number of high-profile cases as of late, but that might be closer to trial. So as we are gearing for trial, he now has canceled, so we expect not to hear from him much. Today, he was declared indigent when he was, asked question of his finances by the judge, Judge Cook. Talk to me about being assigned a case and what that will entail for this public defender.
So when a public defender is assigned a case, generally the public defender is going to be working on that case for a case that's like this, like a death penalty case. And calendar courtrooms where many cases get assigned, misdemeanors, small felonies, you might have one public defender or several as people change in and out the courtroom. But in this case, generally for a more serious felony, you'll have one lawyer. That lawyer will be assigned death penalty cases or other capital cases, and that lawyer will work with the defendant for the duration of his case. And like I said before, that lawyer will likely hit the ground running because if the death penalty is being sought, you're going to want to figure out what, if any, evidence supports the prosecution's claims and what, if any, defenses you actually have.
Yeah, Danny, this is going to be a case that is going to continue to dominate the headlines as it has for the past week during that manhunt. And you know what? I expect to have a team of people with him, this attorney that's been appointed to the case, because now we are talking death penalty.
All right, guys, you heard it first. Austin Robert Drummond, the prosecutors are planning to seek the death penalty in his case, and he's also been assigned an attorney because he couldn't afford one. No shock there. But now the question is, will it go through? How far will it go? And will there be a plea offer on the table to take the death penalty off? We've seen this with Brian Kohlberger. We've seen it with Stephen Stearns. This could happen with Austin Drummond as well. Stay tuned. All right. Now we're going right back to the docket. All right. Covered Menendez. All right. Time to do my little version of NBA Jam. Diddy's bond request, even with an assist from one of his ex-girlfriends, she made an assist making an urgent plea for freedom before his sentencing in August. The judge in Diddy's case said, to quote one of my favorite NBA Jam lines, Get that shiitake mushroom out of here. That shot was totally denied. A judge denied Sean Diddy Combs' request for bond pending sentencing despite an argument from the music mogul's defense that included a letter from his former girlfriend, Virginia Hoon. Hoon was identified in a superseding indictment as alleged victim 3, but did not end up testifying in Combs' sex trafficking trial. On August 3rd, Combs made a push for release on bond as he awaits his sentencing. His defense team argued that Combs is neither a danger to the community nor a flight risk, highlighting his significant transformation and positive behavior during his time in confinement. Hune, identified as victim 3 in the case, wrote a heartfelt letter to the court expressing her belief in Combs' personal growth. She reflected on their years together and noted that he's been dedicated to becoming a better father and person. Hune assured the court that Combs poses no threat to anyone and deserves the opportunity to be home with his family during this challenging time. A portion of Hune's letter of support reads as follows, quote, "Our relationship, like many, was not always perfect. We experienced ups and downs and mistakes were made, but he was willing to acknowledge his mistakes and make better decisions in the future. Over the years that followed, he made visible efforts to become a better person and to address the harm he had caused. By the time our relationship ended, he embodied an energy of love, patience, and gentleness that was markedly different from his past behavior. To my knowledge, he has not been violent for many years and has been committed to being a father first." End quote. In the defense team's latest request for bond, they emphasized that while at the Metropolitan Detention Center, Combs stayed out of trouble, avoiding any fights or violent incidents that are often prevalent in such settings. For the past 11 months, he's shown a commitment to self-improvement, focusing on sobriety and engaging in therapy. His defense team pointed out that these charges reflect a man who is dedicated to turning his life around. The defense also argued that Combs is unlikely to flee, noting that he's a devoted father to 7 children. They maintained that their client is focused on returning to his family and fulfilling his responsibilities. Judge Orange Subramanian denied the defense reviewed request for bond, leaving Combs behind bars pending his sentencing, which is scheduled for October 3rd. Nice try, Diddy. You put the shot up, and the judge said, get that out of here. You're gonna be behind bars until your October 3rd sentencing, which will likely give you another 10 years behind bars for that conviction you got under the Mann Act. Good luck, Diddy. You're gonna need it from this point forward. Next up, two have been charged after an 8-year-old was found dead in a bathtub. Is it the parents or someone else? Let's dig in. We're in Bakersfield, California. Police discovered the body of an 8-year-old girl in a hotel bathtub after responding to a possible medical emergency at the La Quinta Inn on Riverside Drive. Officers were called to the hotel at 5:37 p.m. on August 2nd for reports that a child might be unconscious and not breathing. When they arrived, they received no response and found the bathroom door locked, forcing them to break in. Inside, they discovered the deceased child, who had been abandoned and showed signs of substantial trauma to her body. The investigation led to the identification and arrest of 31-year-old Ray Mata Jr. of Bakersfield and Graciela Bustamante, 27, of Delano, as suspects in the case. Both suspects have been booked into the Kern County Jail on charges of murder, torture, and multiple counts of child abuse. That's where they belong. If all the evidence points to them, that's exactly where they belong. Monsters. That's all I can describe them as. Monsters. Don't worry about the monsters hiding in the closet or under the bed, folks. Alright, next up. Prosecutors have unveiled a 3D model created for Brian Kohlberger's trial. I don't know. They must have did this before the fact that Kohlberger pleaded guilty and took the death penalty off the table. I'll show the pictures if I can, as best I can. Prosecutors in Latah County have released photos of a 3D model of the home where 4 University of Idaho students were killed on November 13, 2022. The model was to be among the elements jurors were expected to see at Brian Kohlberger's trial. The actual house where the killings took place has since been torn down. Kohlberger was scheduled to stand trial this month for the murders of Madison Mulligan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. He pleaded guilty in July and was ordered to serve 4 life sentences without parole for 4 counts of first-degree murder. He was also given a 10-year sentence for burglary and assessed $270,000 in fines and civil penalties. All right. Here are those photos of the home, or at least a 3D model of it. Here's another angle. Third. Fourth. And the overhead. Honestly, if they were gonna do all that, I would have thought this. They shouldn't have torn down the house in the first place, because if you want any kind of evidence at all, they destroyed it. Even if the trial were to go on, all the evidence they needed was at that house on 1122 King Road. I guess that evidence didn't matter much now, because instead of using the evidence directly from the house, they'd rather make a 3D model of the house. Oh well, too little, too late. Kohlberger's behind bars for the rest of his life. Next up, a grand juror in the Karen Reed case is pleading guilty after leaking information. Oh boy, what information was leaked out? Let's find out. A woman who served as a grand juror in Karen Reed's case has pleaded guilty to her own case after admitting to leaking information from closed-door proceedings. Jessica Leslie appeared in court on August 4th for a hearing where she entered a plea of guilty to 1 count of criminal contempt. In documents reviewed by Court TV, Leslie admitted to disclosing information presented to her as a grand juror to unauthorized individuals, despite a warning to the grand jurors not to reveal what happened in the hearings. Leslie confessed to sharing the names of various witnesses who appeared, as well as the substance of their testimony. While the charge of criminal contempt carries a potential penalty of incarceration and a fine of up to $250,000, $250,000, under the terms of the plea, Leslie was sentenced to 1 day of imprisonment, deemed served, 24 months of supervised release, and a mandatory special assessment of $100. Reed was acquitted of nearly all charges after standing trial twice for the murder of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, after her first trial ended in a mistrial. Reed now faces a wrongful death civil lawsuit by O'Keefe's family. To that grand juror, I say this. That was a foolish move. That absolutely foolish. When they tell you don't give out any kind of information to unauthorized people, that's not a suggestion. That's a mandate. and all you got was a day behind bars, consider yourself extremely lucky. Next, House Committee issued subpoenas for Epstein files and depositions. The House Oversight Committee subpoenaed the Justice Department for files in the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking investigation and is seeking depositions with the Clintons and former law enforcement officials as part of a congressional probe that lawmakers may believe show links to President Donald Trump and former top officials. The Republican-controlled committee issued subpoenas for depositions with former President Bill Clinton, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and 8 former top law enforcement officials. The committee's actions showed how, even with lawmakers away from Washington on a month-long break, interest in the Epstein files is still running high. Trump has denied prior knowledge of Epstein's crimes and claimed he cut off their relationship long ago. And he has repeatedly tried to move past the Justice Department's decision not to release a full accounting of the investigation. But lawmakers from both major political parties, as well as many in the Republican president's political base, have refused to let it go, as they should. Representative James Comer, the Republican chairman of the Oversight Committee, noted in letters to Attorney General Pam Bondi and the former officials that the cases of Epstein and his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, have received immense public interest and scrutiny. Comer said, while the department undertakes efforts to uncover and publicly disclose additional information related to Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell's cases, it is imperative that Congress conduct oversight of the federal government's enforcement of sex trafficking laws generally, and specifically its handling of the investigation and prosecution of Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell. Since Epstein's 2019 death in a New York jail cell as he awaited trial for sex trafficking charges, conservative conspiracists have stoked theories about what information investigators gathered on Epstein and who else knew about his sexual abuse. Republican lawmakers on the House Oversight Committee nodded to that line of questioning last month by initiating the subpoenas for the Clintons, both Democrats, as well as demanding all communications between President Joe Biden's Democratic administration and the Justice Department regarding Epstein. Bill Clinton was a number of luminaries acquainted with Epstein, a wealthy financier, before the criminal investigation against him in Florida became public 2 decades ago. Clinton has never been accused of wrongdoing by any of the women who say Epstein abused them. One of the Epstein's victims, Virginia Jeffrey, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, once gave a newspaper interview in which she described riding in a helicopter with Clinton and flirting with Trump. But she later said in a deposition that those things hadn't actually happened and were mistakes by the reporter. Clinton has previously said through a spokesperson that while he traveled on Epstein's jet, he never visited his homes and had no knowledge of his crimes. The committee is also demanding interviews under oath from former attorneys general spanning the last 3 presidential administrations: Merrick Garland, William Barr, Jeff Sessions, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, and Alberto Gonzales. Lawmakers also subpoenaed former FBI directors James Comey and Robert Mueller. However, it was Democrats who sparked the move to subpoena the Justice Department for its files on Epstein. They were joined by some Republicans last month to successfully initiate the subpoena through a subcommittee of the House Oversight Committee. Democratic Representative Robert Garcia, the top Democrat on the committee, and Summer Lee, who initiated the subpoena, in a joint statement both say, "Today is an important step forward in our fight for transparency regarding the Epstein files and our dedication to seeking justice for the victims. Now we must continue putting pressure on the Department of Justice until we actually receive every document." So will the subpoenas be enforced? The subpoenas give the Justice Department until August 19th to hand over the requested records, though such requests are typically open to negotiation. The committee is also asking the former officials to appear for the depositions throughout August, September, and October, concluding with Hillary Clinton on October 9th and Bill Clinton on October 14th. Multiple former presidents have voluntarily testified before Congress, but none has been compelled to do so. That history was invoked by Trump in 2022, between his first and second terms, when he faced a subpoena by the House committee investigating the deadly January 6, 2021 riot by a mob of his supporters at the U.S. Capitol. Lawyers for Trump resisted the subpoena, citing decades of legal precedent they said shielded the ex-president from being ordered to appear before Congress. The committee ultimately withdrew its subpoena. The committee had previously issued a subpoena for an interview with Maxwell, who had been serving a sentence in Florida for luring teenage girls to be sexually abused by Epstein, but was recently transferred to a Texas facility. However, Comer has indicated he is willing to delay that deposition until after the Supreme Court decides whether to hear an appeal of her conviction. She argues she was wrongfully prosecuted. And on top of that, Maxwell does not want the Epstein grand jury transcripts released. What do you got to hide? What do you got to hide? What do you have to hide? In fact, let me take you back to Court TV with that report right now.
The battle to learn the truth of what really happened by releasing the files is now in the news almost every day. While the political class takes sides in this battle, the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are often ignored, and the toll that this is taking on them emotionally is often just a footnote rather than a focus of many stories.
As the tea leaves seem to point to a possible deal between the government and Ghislaine Maxwell, victims of Jeffrey Epstein are speaking out and asking for more transparency. Now this, as top White House officials were reportedly set to meet with Vice President J.D. Vance about an Epstein strategy as they're considering releasing the transcripts of the recent DOJ interview with Maxwell. Some of those victimized by Epstein may be concerned about the handling of the records, while others are wondering what Maxwell had to say in that sit-down.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure if we can even believe her. But, I mean, I would like to know what the U.S. Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, asked her and what she actually said to him. It's very upsetting to me, and I cry with tears like I am now in my living room watching this all the time when I see it on the news every day. Jeffrey's in my brain, and I see him again and again, and I remember what he did to me in that hotel room. And I feel pain in my heart for myself and all for the other victims everywhere.
Oh my gosh, my heart goes out to her and all of the victims. And you know, in this program, we always like to remember the victims. How might they be feeling with all of this, with a lack of justice with Jeffrey Epstein? And now questions about whether Ghislaine Maxwell is going to get some kind of a deal. Well, let's bring in an advocate who is representing 11 Epstein accusers, attorney Eric Fudali. Eric, good morning to you. It's wonderful to see you, and you're fighting a tough fight for these people, as you know. Talk to us, please, about what it's like for them.
You know, it's frustrating. It's disheartening because this is not just what's happening right now. This has been a pattern that's been going on for decades. The victims continue to be disregarded. They continue to be disrespected. They continue to be forgotten beginning in the 90s, of course, with this FBI sham investigation that didn't lead anywhere. The 2008 nonsense sweetheart deal from Alex Acosta that allowed Jeffrey Epstein to continue to abuse. Then, of course, he's finally arrested. The victim thinks, okay, there's going to be justice, and he's somehow allowed to miraculously kill himself in federal custody. Then, of course, Ghislaine Maxwell. You have to remember, she's the one person who has actually met justice, been held accountable for the crimes. And now she's getting a cushy transfer to a club fed type prison, and now there's even talks of a pardon. I mean, it's just one thing after another for these victims, and all they want is closure and justice.
Yes, they more than deserve it. Eric, with Epstein's death, however that went down, for people who believe it was a homicide, and the people who believe it was suicide, however it went down, he's dead. Is there any money available, even at this point, for these victims to get something, to get some kind of financial compensation? I know it doesn't take away the pain, take away the trauma. I understand that. I wish there could be more punishment for him. But is there anything left to attack in terms of assets?
Well, so fortunately, when Jeffrey Epstein passed away, there was a fund that was created to go to the, quote unquote, supposed to all go to the victims. I have some issues with how that was laid out, and of course, where all the money went. I think every single penny Jeffrey Epstein has ever earned should go to the victims. So the victims have been able to get some sort of compensation. Certainly not nearly enough to ever account for what they went through, the years and years of abuse, and the years and years of fear from Jeffrey Epstein. That's something I think also gets lost in this. Is it just wasn't sexual abuse of these vulnerable young women. This was also, he would instill fear and intimidation, brag about his powerful friends, about his power, what he could do to them. And that also, I think, is forgotten. These women not only were abused, but they've lived in fear of Mr. Epstein and his associates, even beyond the grave.
Yeah, that's a great point, Eric, living in fear. Yeah, I'm sure it's just very haunting for all of the victims that you've been helping through this process. I'm happy to hear they've gotten something. They deserve far more because, money doesn't take away trauma. It might help with things in life, and we're grateful for that, but it doesn't remove the trauma, as you know. You've been a prosecutor before going to the private sector and doing all the work you do. Tell me, when it comes to these transcripts of the interview that Todd Blanche did with Maxwell recently in the prison, how do your clients feel about that? Do they want the transcripts to be public?
What we don't want, what I certainly don't want, and also what my client and those victims I spoke to don't want, is they don't want to give Ghislaine Maxwell a platform. She doesn't deserve a platform to talk about what she wants to do, which is why there's no interest really in having her testify in front of Congress. Now, I'd like to see the transcript to see if the DOJ actually challenged her, if it was more like a cross-examination, or if it was more just giving her a voice, trying to clear certain names, letting her tell a story, and focusing on the people that they want to exonerate, right? If there's an actual real cross-examination type interview where they're challenging her and getting to the bottom of what she knows and what happened, I'd certainly be somewhat interested in releasing that. Again, I'm all for the most exposure as possible, as long as it's not the expense of the victims or giving Ms. Maxwell any sort of special treatment. But I would like to see what actually happened, what she actually spoke about, without giving Ms. Maxwell a platform to talk about, because she's never taken accountability for what she did. Also, you have to remember she's been accused of perjury. So you have to take everything she's saying with a grain of salt. I'm for the most exposure as possible, but I really don't want Ms. Maxwell to have sort of a platform, or the DOJ really to have a platform to try to, tell their side of the story or focus the conversation on what they want to be revealed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Eric. Yeah, fair enough, right? I mean, because if she was queen for a day, we know in that interview, and we don't know how tough it was. Last question before we have to let you go for now. I hope we can continue the conversation, Eric, but there's some talk at this point about Deputy AG Todd Blanche, the one who did the interview, possibly going on Joe Rogan's podcast to talk about it. How do your clients feel about that?
It's just more of this political circus that's been surrounding. I keep saying that the victims are being forgotten. I would even go as far as say the victims are being exploited and re-victimized by this political theater, this political circus that's been happening. And I really just wish they could finally get some true justice and some true closure.
I know you do. Eric Vidali, you're awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today. We'll hope to have you back very soon, and please keep us posted with any developments you may hear before we do. Take care.
Thanks to Julie Grant and Court TV's opening statements for that coverage, and I want to say that as far as Galani Maxwell is concerned, I agree with him not to give her a platform, but at the same time, I do not want to see any kind of political spin on the Epstein files. I mean, I don't want to hear about any kind of Republican cover-up. I don't want to hear Donald Trump trying to twist the narrative into his own favor. I don't want to hear his supporters going as far as continuing to say this, and this to back Trump up. It's time for the truth to be told, and in my opinion, the truth is in those files. All right. Next up, a Missouri man is charged with the murder of his wife and unborn son. See, this is what I plan on talking about in another case later. Lebanon, Missouri. A Missouri man was arrested on charges he murdered his wife and their unborn son at their home earlier this summer. Take a look on the right-hand side of your screen. This is Sidney Frederick Wilson V. He's charged with the murder of Reagan Lynn Wilson and the couple's unborn son Silas, who were killed in a shooting at their home on June 5th. Police said Reagan died shortly after the shooting, while Silas died on June 13th. Lebanon Police Chief Jerry Harrison said in a statement renouncing the arrest, "Our entire team mourns the loss of this young mother and her child. Our team and our partners are disgusted by this loss of life and will relentlessly pursue justice for Reagan and her child." Reagan's obituary indicates the couple had separated, referring to Sidney as Silas's father and naming another significant other. In a probable cause statement, investigators said a doorbell camera captured gunshots at the couple's home. That's according to a report from the Springfield News Leader. Talking with police, Sidney first said he had been home all evening. Investigators said cell phone data told a different story. Officers also noted that Sidney never was asked about the status of the investigation and where we were on locating a suspect in the investigation. He only asked about when he could get his vehicle back. Investigators said they also noted bullets found at the crime scene were compatible with a weapon Sidney owned, and said video footage from a home nearby captured a male later identified as Sidney, according to a report from KOLR. Sidney Wilson. He is right now in deep trouble because all the evidence right now is pointing toward him, that he killed his wife and his unborn child. And now I can see him looking at 2 counts of murder already, with at the very least life imprisonment without the possibility of parole being attached to his name as far as a sentence goes. So if he better worry about something other than his vehicle. That's all I gotta say about that. Next, we're gonna go right into the courtroom for a verdict watch and a sentencing for Sheila Agee in the Revenge Mob murder trial. Let's go right now to that, and Oh, this will be short. This will be short, so I'll make it as brief as possible. A Florida woman has been convicted of principal first-degree premeditated murder for encouraging her son to kill the mother of his child. Following the verdict, Sheila Agee was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Sheila's son, Keith Agee, fatally shot Brooklyn Sims on August 11th, 2023, 2 years ago. Keith was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison in December 2023. At trial, Keith confessed to shooting Sims because he contracted a sexually transmitted disease. Keith confronted Sims at the Home Depot where she worked with Sheila. Investigators uncovered text messages between Keith and Sheila in which Sheila called him a couple of expletives deleted if he did not kill Sims, according to an affidavit. Sheila even told Keith to kill Sims at their workplace so his child didn't have to witness it. So I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to let these next 2 minutes speak for itself.
Based on the jury's verdict finding you guilty as charged of principal to first-degree murder, I will adjudicate you guilty of that charge, sentence you to life in the Florida Department of Corrections without the possibility of parole. I believe she has credit for 722 days. Any objection to that amount of credit? And she'll be given that credit. I'll impose $518 in court cost. Madam Clerk, there's no other required cost, correct? All right. And this is the judgment and sentence of the court. You have 30 days to appeal. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you. And all financial obligations will be reduced to judgment lien. That's correct.
Wow. I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like that. A murderer apologizes immediately after the verdict, apologizes to the victims, says she's sorry, apologizes to the court, and does not ask for any forgiveness. It's life for Sheila Agee. Let's go around the horn here quickly. We have about 15 seconds each. What are your thoughts about what we just saw?
Never heard that before. That was class after a horrible murder.
Yep. I think she was very grounded in what she said. It seemed very meaningful.
Yeah, and when we talk about authenticity, both of those women showed authenticity, because I don't want to miss that victim impact statement, which was, that's a powerful victim impact statement.
Yeah, and they were friends. They were both grandparents for this child. They knew each other, and it happened. The jury obviously got it right. She apologized afterwards. But a big moment. I'm glad you were here for it. Darrell Cohen, thank you so much. Meg Strickler and Josh Schiffer. We'll see you again soon. Sheila Agee, guilty of murder, life. There's no parole down in Florida, so it's just life. She will die behind bars, as her son will as well.
Maybe it's just me, but I don't see how that I'm sorry statement is gonna help her out now, because just like Vinnie Politan just said, there's no parole down in Florida. When they say you're spending life without parole, that means you're gonna spend the rest of your life. You're going to die behind bars. Hey, in the immortal words of Judge Joe Brown, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Next up, ex-sheriff Sean Steins wants a psychological evaluation unsealed. Now, if you remember this case, this is the ex-sheriff who killed a judge in his chambers. Reasons still unknown. A former sheriff accused of shooting and killing a Kentucky judge in his chambers wants a psychological evaluation unsealed. Attorneys for Sean Mickey Steins filed a motion to unseal the evaluation. According to the motion, the evaluation was previously conducted and filed under seal by the court, and the results are relevant to issues anticipated for an August 15th hearing. The defendant seeks to introduce portions of the psychological evaluation at the evidentiary hearing to support his defense and ensure the court has a full and fair understanding of the relevant facts, the motion said. The upcoming hearing is for a previous motion filed in June, which moved to dismiss the indictment against Steins. Steins is charged with murder in the shooting death of Letcher County District Court Judge Kevin Mullins. At the time of the shooting, Steins was the sheriff of Letcher County. He resigned on October 1st, 2024, just hours after he appeared in court and pleaded not guilty. So we just got to wait and see whether those results will be unsealed or no. Now we're gonna go right to my neck of the woods, where an Oregon man is accused of killing 3 women already, is indicted on a 4th murder charge. A man accused of killing 3 women in the Portland area and dumping their bodies has been indicted on a 4th murder charge, according to authorities. A grand jury has indicted Jesse Lee Calhoun in the November 2022 death of 22-year-old Kristen Smith. That's according to Multnomah County District Attorney Nathan Vasquez during a news conference. The new indictment, which comes roughly 2.5 years after Smith's remains were found, adds 1 count each of second-degree murder and abuse of a corpse to Calhoun's case. Calhoun was indicted last year in the deaths of 24-year-old Charity Perry, 31-year-old Bridget Webster, and 32-year-old Joanna Speaks. He pleaded not guilty to the 3 counts of each of second-degree murder and abuse of a corpse in the initial indictment. He remains in custody in Multnomah County's Iverness Jail, and his trial is expected to be held in 2027. His defense attorney, Cameron Taylor, declined to comment. Melissa Smith, Kirsten Smith's mother, said she was overwhelmed with emotion. I've always stayed hopeful that I would get justice for Kristen, she said at the news conference. I thank every single person who didn't give up on this case. Perry, Webster, and Smith were found in Oregon, while Speaks was found in an abandoned barn in southwestern Washington. Their bodies were found over several months starting in early 2023, in wooded areas, in a culvert, and under a bridge, in a roughly 100-mile radius, sparking concern that a serial killer might be targeting young women in the region. Police and prosecutors have shared little information in the case. The death of another woman during that time period is still being investigated, Vasquez said. Calhoun was arrested in June 2023 on unrelated parole warrants and indicted in May 2024 in the women's deaths. The indictment came a week before Calhoun was to be released from state prison, where he was returned in 2023 to finish serving a 4-year term for assaulting a police officer, trying to strangle a police dog, burglary, and other charges. He was initially released in 2021, a year early, because he helped fight wildfires in 2020 under a prison firefighting program. Governor Tina Kotek revoked the commutation in 2023 when police began investigating him in the deaths. In my opinion, first of all, that was a smart move by our governor. Second, this guy absolutely deserves to be busted for these murders, and he should stand trial for all of them. And it's possible, if all the evidence is there, the guy is going to be found guilty, which will likely end up being a life sentence for him under Oregon state law. But we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. Next up, Mama Donna. Mama Donna. Her attorney is responding to rumors of a plea deal offer. Oh boy. Well, and guys, you all know how I am, right? You know how I am about plea deals. Uh-oh. Try that again. There we go. All right. Donna Adelson's attorney is denying reports that she turned down a plea deal that would have given her time served in exchange for testimony against her daughter, Wendy Adelson, in the Dan Markle murder case. Tim Jansen, a Tallahassee defense attorney not directly involved in the case, claimed on the Surviving the Survivor podcast that Donna was offered the deal but rejected it. He said on the podcast she was offered a plea deal of time served if she gave up Wendy, and she turned it down. When contacted for comment, Donna Adelson's attorney disputed Jansen's claim, stating no firm offer was conveyed to his client. Let's go to coverage from Court TV.
I'm going to bring you some new information in the case against Donna Adelson. Her defense is reacting to reports that she turned down a plea deal in exchange for her daughter Wendy in terms of the prosecution, but her defense is now confirming to Court TV that is, quote, not accurate. Donna Adelson was reportedly, according to one of our Court TV guests who has experience there in Tallahassee and sources there, that she was offered a deal of, quote, time served if she implicated her daughter Wendy Adelson in the murder of Wendy's ex-husband Dan Markell. And those sources told Tim Jansen that Donna turned down that deal, meaning this is still going ahead to trial. Jansen broke that news yesterday on Vinnie Politan Investigates here on Court TV, also on Surviving the Survivor podcast. Let's take a listen back to that moment before we talk about it.
I wanted to break this. This is something I just heard from a very good source. Donna was offered a plea deal of time served if she gave up Wendy.
Whoa.
And she turned it down. And this is inside the courthouse. She was offered, someone said maybe give her a deal. They said, no. She was offered time served if she would give Wendy, because of her age. She turned it down.
Unreal. You guys are hearing that first anywhere, I think, but here on Surviving the Survivor.
All right, again, that was Tim Jansen on Surviving the Survivor. Longtime attorney, has a lot of sources that he has been able to confirm information. But today, the defense team for Donna Adelson saying that it's not accurate, and the prosecution saying they can't confirm or deny that when Court TV contacted them about whether or not this happened. Now, keep in mind, the background on this story is Donna Adelson is accused of plotting with her son Charlie to arrange the murder of her former son-in-law, FSU professor Dan Markell. Charlie Adelson is currently serving life in prison for his role in the murder, and Donna Adelson is currently awaiting that trial that starts on August 19th. So again, the update there is that according to this deal, neither side is confirming to Court TV that it actually happened. Let's bring in for discussion on this topic. We have national trial attorney Michael Jafer with us. Michael, I know you know this story very well. You know, we have to get the official record on things, and we have not been able to confirm that with the two parties who would know. But do you think they would tell us if there was a deal? And how do these deals usually work? Is it explicit? Is it emailed? Or is it something that's a little bit more nuanced?
Well, it definitely is not emails for sure. It's usually in person. I believe everybody's telling the truth. I believe that it makes sense. The person who broke it would have no reason to lie and ruin his reputation. And it seems to me like this is something that the state would do, because I know that the state hates Wendy, the daughter. I know they hate her, and I know that I said on a prior episode of Court TV that she's like in that movie, where at the end of the day, the character Kaiser Sose was manipulating everybody and seemed like he was the person who had a learning disability, but at the end of the movie, he turned out to be the mastermind who manipulated everybody. I said that's Wendy Adelson, right? She's the person who manipulated everybody. It just was bizarre when she had that interview when she was being taped, when she was talking to the police and saying, it must be somebody in my family. It has to be. I don't see how it's not. So I think the state hates her. I think the state thinks that she took them for a ride. So it would make sense that they would offer her mother a plea to implicate her, because how salacious would that be if she manipulated the state? She tried to get away from it. Her own mom implicated her, and the state put her in jail for the rest of her life. I mean, Donna Adelson's 75 years old. She's not going to I mean, a life sentence for her would not be as impactful as getting Wendy. I think the state definitely wants Wendy. So it would make sense that the state would say we can neither confirm or deny. And it would make sense that the defense would say that's not accurate, because you could say it honestly that it's technically not accurate. They technically didn't offer a plea, because what if they just floated a plea and then the defense attorney shot it down? Defense attorneys and prosecutors talk a lot before a trial is struck up. They talk a ton. So it would make sense. I believe it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, if it was true, it would suggest perhaps that the prosecution doesn't have a very strong case against Wendy if they so desperately needed Donna Adelson's testimony in order to go after her. But we will continue to follow all the developments on that case. We will be there in Tallahassee when it begins August 19th with jury selection.
And I will be prepared for that too. In fact, I'm so ready for it. I'm ready to become a meme. So ladies and gentlemen, I know you've heard this phrase before, but I'm actually living it out. Get your popcorn ready. I got mine. Next up, the docket, Frazier Michael Baum. He's pleading not guilty to both murder and manslaughter charges against him. Let's see what we got going on here. Woo. A California man is accused in a fatal crash that killed 4 Pepperdine University sorority sisters. He's pleaded not guilty in court at his arraignment. Frazier Michael Baum was driving a BMW at speeds of up to 104 miles an hour in a 45 mile an hour zone when he lost control of the vehicle on Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu, according to KABC. Neon Ralston, Aisha Ware, Deslin Williams, and Peyton Stewart, all seniors and members of the Alpha Phi sorority, died in the October 17, 2023 crash. Baum, then 22, was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder and manslaughter in their deaths, according to an arrest warrant obtained by Court TV. He made his first court appearance last month with his newly hired attorney, Alan Jackson, no, not the country singer, who previously represented Karen Reed in her high-profile trial that ended in acquittals on murder and manslaughter charges earlier this year. Baum's defense is expected to argue that he was fleeing a road rage incident at the time of the crash, though investigators have not confirmed this claim. Loved ones of the 4 student victims have pledged to appear at all court proceedings, telling Court TV it feels necessary to do so. For me, it's not a question at all, Bridget Thompson said. Bridget Thompson is the victim's friend and sorority sister. Since all this happened, and especially the night of this tragic incident, I felt so hopeless and helpless. I want to be a support to their families. It hurts me that they can't be in the courtroom to represent themselves. It gives me peace to know that I can be there. Baum is due back in court for a pre-trial hearing on September 5th. Now, something about that defense kind of bugs me. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. You're on Pacific Coast Highway. You're fleeing a road rage suspect driving at speeds of up to 104 miles an hour. How fast was the road rage driver chasing you at that point? Number one. And number two, Who's to say you couldn't avoid him just by driving normally in a 45-mile-an-hour zone? Something totally stinks about that defense, guys. You guys think about it. Let me know what you think. Next up, a shooter in custody after 5 soldiers were shot at Fort Stewart, Georgia. Normally, the last time I heard a story like this, the last words that came out of my mouth were Fort Hood in Texas. A sergeant shot 5 soldiers at one of the country's largest army bases before he was quickly tackled by other Fort Stewart troops, forcing a brief lockdown, according to officials. Few details were immediately available about what led to the gunfire, but officials said the shooter was Sergeant Cornelius Radford, age 28, who used a personal handgun, not a military firearm. Radford opened fire where he worked, but officials wouldn't speculate about a motive, according to authorities. The injured soldiers are stable and expected to recover, according to Brigadier General John Lubis. The soldiers who tackled Radford helped ensure his arrest. Lubis, according to Lubis, who commands the 3rd Infantry Division. These soldiers, without a doubt, prevented further casualties or wounded, he said. This latest act of violence on a U.S. military installation, sites that are supposed to be among the most secure in the country, again raised concerns about safety and security within the armed forces' own walls. The Army said it's investigating the shooting. There are still many unanswered questions, including the scope of the injuries and the shooter's motive. The injured were taken to the hospital and 3 underwent surgery, according to officials. A telephone number listed for Radford in public records rang unanswered. Army records released to the Associated Press show that Radford enlisted in January 2018. He worked as a supply sergeant and has not been deployed. Radford faced an August 20 hearing in Hinesville, near a small town near the base, on accusations of driving under the influence and running a red light just after 1 a.m. on May 18th, according to a citation in court filing. He was given a blood test and freed on $1,818 bond, according to the documents. Attorney Sneh Patel is representing Radford in the traffic case, but not the shooting as according to an email. He cited attorney-client privilege in declining to comment about any of his conversations with Radford. Law enforcement was sent to the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team Complex shortly before 11 a.m. The shooter was arrested at 11:35 a.m. The lockdown lasted about an hour. After it was lifted, cars began to move through the normal security checkpoint at the fort's main gate. The Army's 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team was created in 2016 when the service added more than 200 vehicles to an infantry unit of roughly 4,200 soldiers, also known as the Spartan Brigade. The Army has called the unit its most modern land fighting force. Located about 40 miles southwest of Savannah, Fort Stewart is the largest Army base post east of the Mississippi River by land area. It's home to thousands of soldiers assigned to the Army's 3rd Infantry Division and family members. President Donald Trump called the shooter a horrible person in comments to reporters at the White House. The FBI was at the fort to help investigate, said Deputy Director Dan Bongino. Among the deadliest acts of violence on U.S. military bases was a 2009 attack at a U.S. Army psychiatrist killed 13 people in a shooting that left more than 30 wounded at Fort Hood, a military installation in Texas. In 2013, a defense contract worker and former Navy reservist killed 12 people at the Washington Navy Yard. He was then killed in a gun battle with police. In 2014, a soldier opened fire on his fellow service members at Fort Hood, killing 3 people and wounding a dozen others before the gunman killed himself. And in 2019, an aviation student opened fire in a classroom at Naval Air Station in Pensacola, Florida, killing 3 people and injuring another dozen people, including 2 sheriff's deputies. Just days earlier, a U.S. Navy sailor shot 2 people to death before killing himself at Pearl Harbor, the naval station in Hawaii. So now we have yet another armed forces shooter injuring and claiming the lives of those this person is supposed to be serving and defending our country with. Maybe Donald Trump is onto something here. I don't normally agree with the man, but here I must. If he's doing this to his fellow soldiers, then yes, I agree with the president by saying Radford is a horrible person. He's a disgrace to uniform. Next up, a father is charged with murdering a 10-year-old girl found on an Arizona highway. 10-year-old girl found on Arizona highway, and the father is charged with her murder. I'll give you this much, and then we're going to go to Court TV. The father of 10-year-old Rebecca Baptiste appeared in Apache County Court. Richard Baptiste, along with Anisha Woods, was arrested in connection with the girl's death. In court, prosecutors alleged Rebecca was subject to horrendous conditions and had bruising up and down her body. Look to the left side of your screen. This is 10-year-old Rebecca. Police in Holbrook, Arizona initially responded to Highway 77 and 180 on July 27 for reports of an unresponsive child. Police said the initial call came from Richard's phone, and the reporting party was someone with the child. Scripps News Phoenix was told Rebecca was taken by ambulance to a local hospital before being transported to Phoenix Children's Home, where she died 3 days later. Let's take in the coverage of this story, courtesy of Court TV, your front row seat.
On July 27th, officers found the 10-year-old was not breathing, and they say they could see bruising, cuts, and that the little girl was malnourished.
She sustained subdural hematomas, bruising up and down her entire body, missing toenails.
Those injuries described by prosecutors this week as both Baptiste and Woods appeared in court, now charged with first-degree murder following Rebecca's death on July 30th.
This story involving a 10-year-old girl named Rebecca Baptiste will break your heart, and it will make you seething mad at the same time. We're talking about the torture of a beautiful little girl. Ashley Holden from Scripps News Group has the story.
Over a long period of time, this child was subjected to some horrendous conditions.
In court, Apache County prosecutors describing the injuries of 10-year-old Rebecca Baptiste.
I have marked, for the court consideration, exhibits 2, 3, and 4, which are excerpts from some of the hospital records regarding Rebecca, the victim who died, indicating both acute, so some very recent significant injuries that she sustained, subdural hematomas, bruising up and down her entire body, missing toenails, and then also long-term care issues.
While we still don't know her cause of death, a newly obtained police report says on July 27th, it was Rebecca's dad, Richard Baptiste, and his girlfriend, Anisha Woods, who called 911, saying Rebecca was not breathing, telling police she had run away and had been found by a neighbor. But both Richard and Woods were arrested. The little girl was taken to Phoenix Children's, where she died 3 days later.
An actual medical diagnosis said that the above findings are highly concerning for child physical abuse, child sexual abuse, and torture.
Prosecutors allege 2 other children in the home also had injuries. A new complaint says Rebecca's dad and Woods are now charged with first-degree murder and child abuse.
Rebecca was an absolutely beautiful human. She was one of our best students.
The Empower College prep community left grieving. ABC 15 was told Rebecca and 2 of her siblings were students there until family says they recently moved out of the valley. Administrators say staff reported suspected abuse or neglect to the Arizona Department of Child Safety 12 times in the last year.
In terms of what you guys did see, what kind of prompted you to report?
On more than one occasion, and more than one of the Baptiste scholars shared that they felt unsafe or that they did not want to return home. They would make allegations and have markings on them that were evident that aligned with the allegations that they made.
Administrators say DCS told them the case had been assigned to an investigator at least 4 times, but now they want answers.
Do you feel like the state let these kids down?
Yeah, absolutely. We believe that the lack of absolute follow-through or investigation to support these kids and keep them safe, both physically, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, was not done.
When a child doesn't have a parent to protect them, when a child is being abused by a parent, the last line of defense is the rest of us, the rest of society. And in this case, the school teachers and the administrators, they stepped up, they did what they were supposed to do. They reported it. Then the people whose sole job is to protect the child didn't protect the child. How does that happen? We know what's going to happen to dad and the girlfriend. I don't even need to talk about that. Let's talk about saving our children here. Think Tank back with us. Stephen Long, Eklund Mercy, and Ellis Palavides. Eklund, I don't know, 12 times in a year they're called. Where there's smoke, there's fire. My goodness, how could you investigate and not no toenails? What is going on here?
The issue is the Department of Child Safety. They're booked. They are busy. The case managers have they have files, case files like 100 kids or 100 families, and 100 families, not just minor issues. These are 100 families with severe issues. It makes sense for 4 case managers to try to get to that case. It's 4 case managers that probably were overwhelmed, that got fired, that quit, because it's that hard of a job. Being a case manager is traumatic. So one case like Rebecca's, but there's hundreds in your bag. Like, you have 100 files of Rebecca's, and at any given point, it can get to a fatal, but you don't have the funding, you don't have the people, and the case managers they're not taught to be able to seek out which ones are dire. You know what I'm saying? They're not trained sufficiently to be able to do their job to protect babies like Rebecca. So it's really sad because the teachers
it's sad, it's tragic, but here's the thing, Ellis. I watch news. I hear all this talk about millions for this, millions for that, all this money that is wasted in our government, whether it's federal, local, state, doesn't matter. It is wasted left and right. How on earth can we as a society not have more money to plug into here? These are the most vulnerable. These are our children, like society's children. And when their parents are the ones who are inflicting the pain and the torture, this is when we need the resources to step in. No caseworker should be so overwhelmed, or a system so overwhelmed, that when 12 calls come in about a child being tortured, then nothing gets done. How on earth does our government and look us straight in the face and say, yeah, it's okay, with all the money they waste on everything else?
Well, I think that eventually a civil suit's going to happen, and I assure you that resources will be found to pay that judgment when that comes through. Because at 12 calls, you have an issue. So sometimes maybe it'd be better if there was a more efficient allocation on the front end, because you're going to be paying for this on the back end.
It gets me so angry, Stephen, because we know we pay a lot of taxes. We know we do. Everybody does. Whether it's sales tax, property tax, state tax, local tax, city tax, whatever, death tax. You just get tax. The money's there. It's where it goes. And why this doesn't make its way to the top of the ladder. These are our children. This is our future. These are the people who these children can't protect themselves if it's their own parents who are inflicting the damage. How on earth do we let this happen? Collectively, all of us.
I think it's a complete failure within the Department of Child Safety's own procedures and policies. To Ellis's point, when the civil suit does come, and it will come, I think we'll get a good look at the failures of those policies and procedures. Regardless, we all know that government workers and caseworkers within this department overworked. That's why we're supposed to have efficient policies and procedures to follow so that the cases that are supposed to be prioritized to protect children get done first. The department's name is Child Safety. How can we not look at this as a complete and utter failure of one of our government institutions?
This is so, and by the way, 2 more children, thank goodness they got out, but it's really hard to accept, right? We know it happened. It won't be the last time this is going to happen, and it's certainly not the first. It's going to happen again and again and again. But like, if you're running a government and this is a department, like, how do you not say, okay, this is the one. This is our top priority. Let's start here and then take care of everything else. Because if the children aren't safe, what's the point? If we can't protect children. And it's not like, oh, we got a call and we went out there and they made it look pretty. You get 12 calls. 12 calls. And the teachers, so good. They're keeping their eyes and ears open. The kids were actually, seems like they were actually speaking up themselves. And no one's listened. Well, the teachers were listening, but no one else was listening to protect them.
There are a lot of things I agree with Vinnie Politan on. And right at the start of it is when he said that this story would break my heart and it would make me seething mad. If anybody is looking and ready to ask, where is the last Outlaw's outrage on this story? You don't have to look any further. Vinnie Politan said it right before he went to the think tank that when the parents fail to protect their child, we are the last line of defense for that child. And when we fail, a child dies. This is proof. This is proof. Whoever's supposed to be running this organization to help protect the child when the parents fail, they had to be called 12 times and did absolutely nothing? That's absolutely disgusting to me. I'm looking for justice. Let's make plans right now. Dad, behind bars for life. Girlfriend Anicia, behind bars for life. And the people that's supposed to be checking on this child, sue them for everything. for their absolute and utter failure to protect this child, because that's exactly what this is. Absolute, complete, utter failure. And you're right, Vinny. I am seething mad about this. I'll discuss this case a lot sooner than you think. Next up on the docket, the sentencing of Stephen Lawson in Crystal Rogers' case. Oh yeah, I am seething mad over that last story. All right. Before we go back to court TV again, the first of 3 men to face punishment for the death of Crystal Rogers was given a sentence of 17 years in prison. In June, Stephen Lawson was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence for his role in Rogers' presumed death. That same jury recommended that he be sentenced to 17 years in prison. A judge agreed with the jury and sentenced him to 17 years for conspiracy to commit murder and 5 years for tampering with physical evidence to be served concurrently. Let's go to the courtroom.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. Let's turn our attention now to Kentucky, where the first of 3 men convicted in the death of Crystal Rogers faces sentencing today. Now, back in June, a jury found Stephen Lawson guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence for his role in the presumed death of Rogers. That same jury recommended that he be sentenced to 17 years in prison. However, it's the judge who ultimately decides his fate. Lawson's son, Joseph, was convicted of the very same charges, while Rogers' boyfriend, Brooks Hauk, was convicted of murder and tampering with physical evidence. The 2 are scheduled to be formally sentenced on August 21st. Before we take you back inside the courtroom for the sentencing of Stephen Lawson, here's a quick look back at some of the best moments from his trial.
Right. So they asked you if you knew where her body was?
Yes, sir. That has been asked on numerous occasions.
What did you say?
I have no clue.
And they asked you who killed her?
I think that has been asked, but I'm not going to swear to that. Sure, but I think it has been.
Well, if I asked you the question, if you knew who killed her, what would your answer be?
Do I know? No, sir, I do not have a clue. I don't know that she is, so I can't answer that.
Did you ever intend to promote or facilitate the murder of Crystal Rogers?
No, sir.
Did you ever agree to aid Brooks Hauk in the planning of the murder of Crystal Rogers?
No, sir.
When you drove Joey down to Bluegrass Parkway, was there an agreement between you and Brooks Hauk Crystal Rogers would be murdered?
Never ever got said to me, so that's a no, sir.
And when you went to go pick up Joey off of Bluegrass Parkway, did you think that was providing an opportunity for Brooks to
No, sir. I was down there picking him up because he broke down, plain and simple.
And you want this jury here to believe that your presence up there in those fields outside Cox's Creek, the early morning hours, had nothing to do with Crystal's disappearance at that same time? Is that what you're telling this jury? Is that what you want this jury to believe?
Yes, sir. I'm telling the jury that. And I won't never apologize for being up there drinking, that I was an alcoholic. I won't apologize for that neither.
At this time, I need the defendant and counsel to please stand. The verdict form reads as follows. On instruction number 3, it says, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of conspiracy to commit murder under instruction number 3A. Under verdict form number 4, it says, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of tampering with physical evidence under instruction number 4.
Tell me a little about yourself, Tori.
I'm 21. This was my mom.
So I'm going to ask you some questions, okay? Crystal's your mom, right? How old were you when the last time you seen your mom?
I was 11.
Tell me, you're going to have to talk for everybody, okay? All right, I want you to tell me how this has affected your family.
We've had to go through all different kinds of milestones without our mom. It's been really hard. And she won't get me to see me get married. She didn't get to see my sister get married or have kids. She won't get to meet my kids or any of my siblings' kids.
Well, and she went, when this first happened, she went missing, right?
Yeah.
How long did you hold out hope that you were going to find her?
I still can go find her.
The jury recommends the sentences be served concurrently for a total of 17 years. All three have been signed by the foreperson.
Let's take you now inside the courtroom for the start of the sentencing hearing.
Stephen Eugene Lawson. It's 23 CR 165 and 23 CR 371. The Commonwealth is represented in this matter today by Mr. and Ms. Young and Mr. Lasowski. Also present is Mr. Lawson with counsel, Mr. Wolf and Mr. Buckler. By way of background, back on May 27th, this matter came before the court in Warren County for a jury trial. On May 30th, 2025, the jury returned a verdict finding the defendant.
I want to thank everybody and Steve.
No, Your Honor. At this time, in conformity with the jury's verdict, it is the sentence of the court that Mr. Lawson be confined in a penal institution, there and to remain for a period of 17 years upon his conviction to conspiracy to commit murder, 5 years for tampering with physical evidence. It's a further order of this court, all times shall run together or concurrently for a total sentence of 17 years. Also, for the record, the court would note that any request for probation or conditional discharge, the court believes he's statutorily precluded from asking for that. But even if not, the court finds that to grant probation or conditional discharge would unduly depreciate the seriousness of this matter. I will be signing a judgment here today. After that judgment has been entered by the clerk's office, the clerk is going to send copies to both sides, and then that can be appealed if he wishes to do so.
Yes, sir.
Anything else we need to take up at this time, counsel?
I'm going to have some comments. Nothing, but I'd like to approach on just an administrative matter, but it has nothing to do with...
Sure, come on.
So it won't take long.
So no surprise there, the judge follows the jury's recommendation of 17 years behind bars. I just want to check in with you. The sister who, very short victim impact statement, said that he could have stopped it. And again, I'm not going to question a victim who has their impact statement, but I wonder really if this guy who worked for Houck, who clearly was a guy who had more money, he was employed by him, if he really could have stopped it. I'm not sure he could have.
He could have said no. I think that's what she means. You could have said no. You could have reported it. You could have done something different, and none of this would have happened. I do think that's what was meant. And I just have to mention, I too am not surprised. 17 years as the jury recommended. As soon as I heard there were going to be 2 victim impact statements and that was it, I kind of thought, okay, the judge is going to go with what the jury recommended.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, let's welcome in our guest for this hour with us, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Marie Pedetta. Marie, great to see you as always. Want to get your reaction to the sentencing here of Steve Lawson?
I think he got exactly what he deserved, and I think the plea that was made by the, I believe it was the uncle of the victim, really tugged at the heartstring of the judge, because at the end of the day, they still don't know where the body is. And maybe since he was convicted of conspiracy to commit this murder, he had knowledge of where the body is. When you don't have the body, you can't put your family member to rest. It's sort of like you never get that closure. So I think, you know, he should spend his 17 years. And I agree with the person who made the victim impact statement. It should be miserable and like hell for him, because that's exactly what he deserves after being convicted by a jury of his peers of conspiracy to commit this murder.
Yeah, he did say in that statement, this was Mike Ballard, the uncle, I hope you have the worst experience in prison, right, that you can possibly have. That's what I want for you. And I go back to something you just mentioned, this body not being found, because I would argue that between the three of them, Marie, at least one of them can say, this is exactly where we left the body. This is where you can find the body, and they haven't done that.
They haven't done it because maybe there are going to be appeals, and him saying where the body is really connects him deeply with it. And I think, maybe this person who was convicted of conspiracy has no knowledge of where exactly the body is. Because simply conspiring to commit doesn't mean he was there when the remains were buried or whatever they did with that. It's possible that he doesn't know where the body is.
Quickly, Marie, this is one of those cases that I've always had questions about from the very beginning in terms of Steve Lawson and even his son. This is a guy, Brooke Houck was known to be a very powerful guy. It can be argued that he really didn't necessarily have a choice when he was asked to do things by Brooks Houck, because he was the source of his income. If he asked him to do something, he doesn't do it. Next thing you know, he's not getting the work. I guess he was taking care of some of his rentals, doing those types of things.
But that's the choice. I have to push back a little. That's his choice. He could have still given that up. You don't think so?
I'm just saying, when you look at somebody's involvement, and I want to say quickly what he says his involvement was. He says all he did was he went and picked up his son. His son took the car, drove out to where it was found. He went and picked up his son. That's what he claims his involvement was. Again, when I look at the totality of the circumstances, 17 years for his involvement is a bit harsh. Now, you certainly couldn't disagree, and I think you probably will.
It's not harsh at all, because like Judge Ashley said, that is a choice. You made a choice to save yourself. You made a choice not to report it to the police because you were busy counting the Benjamins instead of life. Making that choice is a choice. You didn't want to get fired. You wanted to remain in his favor. You made a choice. Murder for your job. And that's what you did. So he's paying for that choice right now.
Yeah, I agree. I want to see, do we have time at all to play any more of those jailhouse calls that Brooks Houck made? I want to listen to some of those and come back to you, Marie.
Chances are, with as high profile as this case is, they're not really going to try to settle that out of court in a wrongful death suit. They're going to try to get a sympathetic jurors to award us something astronomical. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the reason why I'm saying sell what you can right now.
All right, give us your analysis of these calls. There's lots more where that came from.
And that's exactly why he was convicted. He was a part of it. And he knew exactly what he was doing. Choices were made, calculations were made. He rationalized to himself, you know what, I have to do this. So even after the fact, he knows the seriousness of what he's facing. It's a high-profile case. You have an innocent person, the mother of 5, senselessly, brutally, probably murdered, and the body is never found. He knew what he had coming, and he got exactly what he deserved. The phone call proves post-action guilt right there.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, I get what you guys are saying. My only point is he was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder. I don't believe he was any part of that conspiracy. He was never on equal grounds with Brooke Houck. Brooke Houck decided this is what he was going to do, and then he called in these guys to help him after he did the deed. And so that's the only problem I have with this. I just feel like they're on equal footing with him to be convicted of conspiracy. That's kind of where I'm at.
And when you describe it like that, the conspiracy piece, it's more like an accessory after the fact in your mind.
The tampering of evidence, accessory after the fact, I'm fine with. The conspiracy bothers me.
Okay, the way you explained it, I mean, that does make sense to me as to where you see that perhaps it was a little bit different. We know the judge did say 17 years is your sentence.
And one goes down for 17 years, there's still 2 others. Joseph Lawson and Brooks Houck himself. Stay tuned guys, because There's more of that to come. Next up, a Florida mother accused of fatally shooting her daughter is set to face the death penalty. And of course, anybody, again, you know me, and you know how I feel about plea deals, right? Oh, yeah. You thought the case before Stephen Lawson's sentencing ticked me off? Try this one. Prosecutors will seek the death penalty against a Florida mother accused of killing her 7-year-old daughter earlier this year. 31-year-old Nikesha Williams is charged with first-degree murder and aggravated child abuse in the death of her daughter, Nia Williams. Prosecutors filed a notice of intent to seek the death penalty against Nikesha. The notice cites several aggravating factors. Including that the victim was under 12 years old. The killing was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, and that Nikesha had custodial authority over the child. Let's go to court.
Turning now to a devastating case of child abuse in Florida that's really raising questions about and concerns about the child welfare system. The state's attorney's office has filed paperwork to seek the death penalty against a woman, a mother, accused of stomping her 7-year-old daughter to death. Nikesha Williams is charged with first-degree murder and aggravated abuse in the death of her 7-year-old daughter, Nia Williams. Now, Nia died in April after being brought to the hospital with multiple injuries, including severe blunt force trauma, a lacerated liver, and internal bleeding. Her mother claimed that the child had an adverse reaction to medication, but toxicology tests refuted those claims, and Nia's death was ruled a homicide. Scripps affiliate WPTV reporter Kayla McDermott has more on the story.
In her first death penalty filing since becoming state attorney, Alexia Cox outlines in these documents why she believes Nikesha Williams should receive capital punishment if found guilty.
For nearly 45 days, Nikesha Williams has been sitting in a Palm Beach County jail cell for allegedly beating 7-year-old Nia Williams so badly detectives say she killed her. Now, the state attorney's office has filed a motion for Williams to be put to death.
How much could you have done her to make the state want to kill you?
Nia's loved ones, Rebecca Finley and Whitney Walker,
But I can't breathe, I can't eat.
tell me every day without Nia is a battle.
So we don't let this light go out. It says, the moment your heart stops, mine changed forever.
To them, death is what Williams deserves.
Oh, it's fit perfect for her. Eye for an eye.
In state attorney Alexia Cox's first death penalty motion, she cites these 5 reasons for the push. Aggravated child abuse, the crime is especially heinous, committed in a cold, calculated manner, the victim is less than 12 years old, and the victim was particularly vulnerable, as the defendant is a family member.
It's more reasons. They're just not listed.
I sat down with John Walsh, the supervising attorney in the fostering division of the Legal Aid Society of Palm Beach County.
In this case, it's a tragedy.
It's also personal, as he represented Nia as an infant and now represents Nia's surviving siblings.
Every child you lose haunts you in this field.
He believes the state could have prevented Nia's death.
In this case, the state filed to terminate her parental rights at one point. Why did they change course? Well, we need to look at the forest and ask ourselves, what could we have done that would have made her safer?
But for Finley, if she could speak with Williams, she would say,
You deserve everything that is coming to you.
In Palm Beach County,
always justice for Nia.
Kayla McDermott.
What a tragedy. Let's welcome in our guests to discuss these tragic cases. We still have criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Marie Pereira. We also have author of How Massachusetts Put Harmony Montgomery in the Hands of a Monster, retired juvenile court judge Carol Erskine joins us as well. great to join us. Thank you so much for joining us, Judge. I truly appreciate it. And of course, Marie. Judge, I want to start with you because, again, we've heard the question asked a couple of times. You know, how could this have happened? It's clear somebody failed somewhere along the way. And there are many, many parallels to the Harmony Montgomery case. First and foremost, I want to get your thoughts on this case and how could we have possibly ended up here under the circumstances?
Well, thanks for having me on. I think there are a lot of reasons that we ended up here, and some of those reasons have to do with the changes that have occurred in so many states in the United States. In other words, many states have actually changed the threshold standard for the reporting of abuse, and so thousands and thousands of reports of abuse every day are just never even investigated by the department. I think people generally have the belief that when you call in child abuse report that someone's going to investigate it, but that just doesn't happen in every case. And so the changes in those standards are part of the problem because so many of these reports involving this beautiful little girl just were not investigated. And then the other issue is, and maybe it's cynical to say it, but the states have a mandate to reunify. And unfortunately, just like Harmony's case, the states prefer to reunify, but they do it even when the safety of the child is at risk. And that's just one of the things that has to change. We have to start prioritizing the best interest and safety of children and at least giving it equal footing to parents. But the fact of the matter is under the law, that's just not the case.
Well, let me check on that, because one of the things that you said that I think is still generally true in juvenile court, it's generally the overriding principle is the best interest of the child. And I think where the issue comes is in this unification part, where I think the presumption is still that the child is always best with the family. Is that what you mean? Is that where the problem comes in? Because here, clearly, there were people who cared for this girl. She had a caregiver, right? And the caregivers went to the child welfare folks and told them, look, there's a problem here. This child is coming to us with all kinds of injuries. We will take care of the child. And still, they put this child in the home of the mother. Now, I will tell you this. At one point, it seems the mother did take a parenting course as part of an order by the court, which allowed her to get her child back. So they're trying to do things here. But is that presumption that the mother or the parents are the best options for these children, is that part of the problem here?
Yes, I think it has become part of the problem because what has happened is that the rights of children have been subrogated to the rights of the parents. And of course, the Supreme Court has made clear that there has to be clear and convincing evidence of unfitness in order to terminate parental rights. But in a case like this, where there were ongoing problems and so many problems, you have to ask yourself, was just doing a parenting class enough to reunify the child? That's one of the concerns. And yes, parents' rights are extremely important, and we should reunify, and I reunified thousands of cases when it was appropriate. But sometimes it's just not appropriate. And yet states push for reunification and to the exclusion of the best interest of the child. And that's why you see this children like this one dying, like Harmony dying, like the little girl, Rebecca in Arizona. This is what you're seeing. This is a new trend in the United States to subrogate the rights of children to the rights of parents.
Yeah, and Keisha Williams had a documented drug problem as well, so that would have to have been taken into account. Maria, to get you into the conversation here, the DA there is seeking the death penalty for a mother in the death of her own child. According to the other children, there are 3 siblings that Nia had, older siblings. They all said she was sort of the target child, which we see often in these cases, and that her mother stomped her in the stomach, and this is what caused these injuries that led to her death. They have a number of aggravating factors. What do you make of this? A mother possibly facing the death penalty because of the murder of her own child.
She absolutely deserves the death penalty. And I agree 100% with everything Judge Erskine said, because nowadays they're thinking that it's in the best interest of the child to keep the child somewhere where it's familiarity with the mom or the dad or whoever it is. But nowadays, we know that it's not stranger danger that children have to be worried about with all of these cases, with your Lori Daybells and everyone else who's murdering their children. There are too many, I can't even recall them, but it's infuriating to think that to protect the rights of the parents is in the best interest of the children. It's not always like that. Sometimes you just have to take the kids away from these people, because at the end of the day, this woman, she kicked the little girl to death. She kicked her in the abdomen and damaged her organs, and she caused the death of this person. This little person who trusted her, all of the aggravating factors are there. Position of trust, unprovoked, lying about it after the fact. It is so disgusting, I could barely contain myself. But I agree with my esteemed co-panelists, 100%. We need to revisit this and protect the children. It's not always okay to just say, that's her mama, that's where she belongs. Because look what happened to Harmony, look what happened to her. It's just like, wow, what is in the best interest of the children? Take them away, especially in this case. They had a precursor. They knew she was not a safe person. So it's not something that happened just out of the air. We knew she had abused a child before. What does it take? This? It's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. She missed 50 days of school. The school noticed that she was dirty all the time. In 2021, she had a fracture of the right femur. Again, the biggest, strongest bone in our body. Laceration in the back of the head in 2022. So there were certainly signs here. But Judge Erskine, I want to ask you about how things get complicated when there are other siblings. So she had 3 older siblings. They also suffered abuse, but they all said the one who got the worst was Nia. Nia was actually left at the hospital when she was born. This woman from the beginning had an issue with this child. We often see this. Speak to that aspect of this, that sometimes there's one child who has the most problems. There are siblings. So when you talk about reunification, the fact that there's siblings also kind of complicates things, no?
Yes, it does complicate things, but case law makes clear that you have to look at each individual child. And when you have one child who's the target and you know you have a parent who's abusive like this, you have to assume the other children are at risk. Whether or not those children are the targets isn't the issue. The issue is you have a woman who clearly is dangerous around her own children. As you said, you have a history of one child having a broken femur. I mean, I had hundreds and hundreds of cases where one child was abused and the other child may not have, the other children in the home may not have been as abused. But in those circumstances, and considering totality of the circumstances, yes, I would remove the other children. I had cases where there was a death of a child, one child who was the target, and then the department seeks to remove the other children. You have to look at the totality of the circumstances and what you're dealing with. And in this case, you're dealing with just an unconscionable level of abuse. And whether the other siblings were involved with that isn't so much as the issue as looking at the parent. I mean, that was the case with Harmony. I mean, he beat Harmony to death. He tortured her pretty much every day, but he had 2 other children. And yes, they had, a different mother. But the fact of the matter is he targeted her, he tormented her, he tortured her, and then he beat her to death in the back seat of the car. But the other children were unharmed. It's not unusual. Sadly, it's not unusual.
Yeah, and I tell you, both of these cases, literally, reading about this case brought me to tears. All right, Judge Erskine, thank you so much for joining us today and helping us out with this one, because it's just so tough to figure out or even just report on cases like this.
I'm trying to hold back from shedding tears myself after listening to after listening to this case. But I read this article prior to tonight's edition of BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded, and we got a problem. Those little children, like little Nia Williams, like the Harmony Montgomerys, like the Rebecca Baptiste. Who's protecting them? Who's protecting them when the parents aren't? sad state of affairs when that happens to a child. Moving onward. Amy Bradley's brother. Now, I caught this off the title and I thought, what is this person thinking? But I remember that this is how important this case is. Amy Bradley's brother is seeking the assistance of Kim Kardashian for help to find his sister. I'll take you to the report courtesy of Court TV, and then come back with the vital information that you need. Maybe we can help bring Amy Bradley home safe.
Obviously, losing my sister has been really tough and emotional, and but watching my parents go through that was some of the hardest stuff. And even to this day, certain topics of conversation, it's a wrap with the emotions.
Now for what's trending in true crime, the brother of Amy Bradley. Amy's the woman who vanished from a cruise ship back in 1998. Her brother, Brad Bradley, is hoping that superstar Kim Kardashian can help find his sister. So he reached out to Kim and to music superstar Rihanna for some help, hoping the star's fame and influence will help locate his sister. Now, Rihanna's from Barbados, which is near the area where Amy vanished. And Kim K watched the Netflix doc and told her fans that it was, quote, mind-blowing and a, quote, must-see. And her post also said, quote, we must find Amy. This is so crazy. At Netflix. Now, Brad fired off a direct TikTok message to Kim K asking for her help, raising some awareness about the case, writing, quote, the FBI agents in charge of Amy's case dropped the ball from day one and have been sitting on their hands for years and years. Amy deserves justice. Please help us. Now, we haven't seen a response yet from Kim, but could the celebrity's influence help solve the case? Let's ask our power panel that question. Let's bring back in. Here we go. I'm welcoming all new guests here. I'm so sorry. I'm Attorney John Phillips, a celebrity attorney, with us. Also, I have with me retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer and Professor and retired NYPD Detective Mike Alcazar. Good morning to you all. All right, so new leads coming in, according to the Bradley family, new tips coming in. Brad Bradley has said people have sent emails, photos that they think could possibly be Amy. The family's of the opinion she was trafficked. She was somehow put into a human trafficking situation, taken off of that ship and held in Curacao, at least for a time. Now, can these celebrities help do anything at this point? What do we think? Mike Alcazar, would you start us off, please?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the Netflix show definitely brought more attention to this cold case. And Kim Kardashian and Rihanna jumping on board with their millions of followers, there's no doubt in my mind that our internet sleuths, our web detectives, will be a good source of information that they could provide for investigators. So, yeah, I think it would definitely help.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Jennifer Coffindaffer, to you next, please. Thoughts on these celebrities? Can they do anything in your view?
Well, I think what they can do is just bring more exposure, right? More people are going to know about this case than knew about it before. They can also use their influence to sort of incite public interest in the case. So I think those are the two items they can bring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Maybe some comfort to the family. You know, I'm sure it's going to be comforting. So many people reaching out, concerned about this woman. John Phillips, last to answer the question, but certainly not least on the panel, your thoughts on the celebs, please.
You know, I've been through this. So when Tiger King came out, ultimately Don Lewis's family hired me, and he was missing. And we did something similar and actually did a kind of a commercial during Carol Baskin's Dancing with the Stars. Like, you know what happened to Don Lewis? And the calls we got are kind of match what the stories have said here. There's some crazy, profound things, a bunch of lookalikes. And so you do get an overabundance of leads that you got to sort through, and you got to have a team that's going to do it. And that requires resources, which is why you reach out to Kim Kardashian and people with influence and money to kind of help steer, an investigation. And certainly, I don't know how many times Joe Exotic's reached out to Kim Kardashian for her help. She's because she's affiliated with the law and wants to be a lawyer. I know she's kind of a logical one, and she obviously is one of the most influential, social media people that we have going right now.
Yeah, definitely an influencer. That is for sure. She really has aligned herself to somebody who cares about crime and justice, and she has her causes she takes up. I'll be curious to see what, if anything, comes next for her. And so, talking about what we think may have happened here, everybody's got an opinion. We're debating things in our newsroom here at Court TV Network. So, would love to ask all of you on the Power Panel for your opinions as to what you think happened to Amy Bradley. Mike Alcazar, let me go back to you. Your thoughts.
Yeah, if you watch the documentary, it's definitely a lot of things that could have happened, right? First of all, it's multi-jurisdictional, so it was difficult to preserve the crime scene, if there was a crime scene, because, they cleaned up the cabin, and then they weren't able to investigate until they pulled into a port and the FBI stepped on board. So, the family seems to be adamant that they don't believe it's a suicide or an accidental, falling off the deck. So is it possible that she was drugged and then escorted out of the boat, possibly by that guy Yellow? 100%. So we know human trafficking happens a lot in these countries, and then, we don't have jurisdiction over there. So it was so much time lapsed that I feel like, yes, investigators kind of like responded poorly and not timely. And, and there was, they didn't, do proper surveillance. So, yeah, to answer your question, yes, I think she possibly could have been the victim of human trafficking.
Detective, really appreciate that. Thank you. Agent Coffindeffer, I want to go to you next for your opinion, and also a little known fact about I want to go to you next for your opinion, and also another little known fact about
Okay, guys, we got a bit of a freeze job on this, but I can give you some information on I can give you some information on Amy Bradley missing, and I can give you the what I like to call the BETHEA'S BYTE reloaded treatment, as far as all her information, what she looked like, what she was last wearing, and all that good stuff. All right, let me get it all together here. God, that's what I'm looking for. The FBI wanted post, the FBI missing persons poster. Oh, so this helps me out a little bit. All right. Amy Bradley is 5'6", 120 pounds, with short brown hair and green eyes. She's missing since March 24th of 1998. The FBI is offering a reward of up to $25,000, at least as of the last time they put this out, offering a reward of up to $25,000, leading to information For information leading to the recovery of Amy Lynn Bradley and information that leads to the identification, arrest, and conviction of the persons responsible for her disappearance. Here's all the details. This is coming from the FBI Washington, D.C. field office. Amy Lynn Bradley, while on a family cruise to the Caribbean, went missing from the Royal Caribbean International Cruise Line's ship Rhapsody of the Seas. On Saturday, March 21st, 1998, the vessel departed San Juan, Puerto Rico, and traveled to its first port of call, the island of Aruba. On Monday, March 23rd, 1998, the Rhapsody of the Seas departed Aruba and was traveling in international waters to its next island port of Curaçao of the Netherlands Antilles. During the early morning hours of Tuesday, March 24th, 1998, Amy Lynn Bradley went missing. The vessel later departed Curaçao and continued onto the island of St. Martin, and further traveled to St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, before returning to San Juan, Puerto Rico on Saturday, March 28, 1998. Bradley has the following tattoos: a Tasmanian devil spinning a basketball on her shoulder, the sun on her lower back, a Chinese symbol on her right ankle, and a gecko lizard on her navel. She also has a navel ring. Ladies and gentlemen, I've said this, I always say this with every missing persons case I cover. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Amy Lynn Bradley, I beg of you, I plead with you all, please do not hesitate. You're asked to have more. If you have more information, you can log on to amybradleyismissing.org. You can call 804-789-4269, or you can email at amybradleyismissing@gmail.com. Or whatever you do, as always, if you see something, say something. Let's try to find Amy Lynn Bradley and let's bring her home safe. If you have, even if it means getting a hold of Kim Kardashian, Rihanna, or whomever has some kind of influence, let's bring Amy Lynn Bradley home and bring her home safe and sound. Now that I see that now the video is loaded back, we're gonna go right back to Julie Grant and her roundtable regarding Kim Kardashian's influence. Could it help solve Amy Lynn's disappearance?
About you, I just learned that you did a detail in the Virgin Islands. You had a special assignment there when you were serving in the SBS. You know what it's like to work a case and be in someone else's jurisdiction, and what's that like? Would you kind of talk to us about that and also share your opinion on what you think may have happened here, please?
Yes, well, first of all, a lot of people don't know that the FBI has jurisdiction over crimes that happen on planes, trains, and automobiles. So it doesn't matter whether it's drug-related or something like this, a missing person case. I worked many of these cases, and I'll tell you, while I was there were so many leads on Natalie Holloway. And you just see these pouring in, that she was cited and somebody saw her. And it reminds me so much of this case. Look, when I look at the facts, that table being pulled over to the edge right near the railing, the fact that her shoes were quote unquote placed neatly there, and the information about her wanting to sort of beat the ship ashore, the fact she had, I believe, 7 drinks that night, and those are just the ones that they could trace to her credit card, not ones that she might have been given, a shot here or there, something like that. The fact that none of the cameras on the ship, and there were cameras, never picked up any activity like somebody struggling or smuggling somebody off or her walking off. Those all lead me to believe that she'd have voluntarily went over maybe to beat that ship to shore, but that she was not taken, most likely.
I really appreciate that insight, Jennifer. Yeah, there were some other things that came out in the documentary that Amy Bradley had just come out as gay, and it just touched on this. It didn't really belabor the point, but said that her parents weren't happy about that. And there was a point where there was an interview done with a woman who was in a relationship with her, and there was a problem, and Amy Bradley had written her this. It was a message in a bottle, literally a message in a bottle. And when my view, I'm watching that just as, you know, look an outsider thinking, oh gosh, could this have been somewhat of a suicide note? Who knows? It seems like there was some sadness and heaviness to that message. So, you know, to those folks who think she may have gone overboard for whatever reason, suicide, accident, whatever it was, who knows? John Phillips, would you take us home here? Look at the facts, look at what you've seen, read about this case so far. What's your theory on what happened to Amy Bradley?
Human trafficking can certainly happen any place, anywhere, anytime, and we need to treat it like that. That said, it is extremely rare for it to happen on board a ship. There's just too many control factors that happen. You would expect it to happen once it ported. And kind of like the former agent said, there's just a lot there that kind of point to other factors. But if you're the family, you want answers and you have suspicions and you don't want to believe, you know, that this was suicide or some sort of accident. And there's, I haven't seen the documentary, but, you know, I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that points to other things, and Netflix is really good at doing that. So, you know, I don't know. And I agree for the family. And certainly if you're dealing with depression, please speak out.
Yes, John, I love all those points you made. You're right. You know, we see a documentary and it's really hard to form an opinion just based on that, what we're served up, you know, and when there's so much more out there, I'm sure we have no idea about. And you're right, this family, of course, they're going to want to keep that hope going and hope that someday she'll come back home to them. We all wish that that happens. Every good wish to the family, and we're certainly going to report any updates we get with this case. A big thank you to this amazing power panel this morning. Agent Jennifer Coffendeffer, Detective Mike Alcazar, thank you both so much. I know we need to let you two go.
And once again, if you have any information on the whereabouts of Amy Lynn Bradley, you're asked to log on to www.amybradleyismissing.org. Call in whatever tips you have at 804-789-4269 or email amybradleyismissing@gmail.com. And again, as always, if you see something, say something. We're looking to bring Amy Bradley home and bring her home safe. Next on the docket for Verdict Watch, we have Jordan Palmer on trial in Montana in what is called the return mail murder trial. And we are going to go right into the courtroom with the verdict.
All right, we're still on top of the breaking news coming out of Montana, where the verdict has been reached in the return mail murder trial. Let's go back into court.
Ms. Crandall, the verdict.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, listen to your verdict as filed for record in Gallatin County District Court, cause number PC 24-323C, State of Montana v. Jordan Palmer. You, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn to try the issues in the above entitled cause, enter the following unanimous verdict to the charge of deliberate homicide of Stephen Campbell, not guilty. Dated and signed the 7th day of August for person, Mr. Voss.
Ms. Boland, you, or Mr. Boland, you wish to poll the jury?
Jury.
Very well. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
All right, not guilty verdict for Jordan Palmer, really flying in the face of conventional wisdom in a short verdict. We thought it was adverse to the defense. Let me quickly again bring in our guest here, Marsha Minot. Both of us, I think, thought that this might be problematic for the defense, but they found him not guilty of deliberate homicide. He is essentially going to be a free man shortly.
It is amazing. I'm very shocked, especially since it's a quick verdict. It's normally not what happens in cases, but I think the defense in their closing did a great job with the handshaking analogy and the rat droppings or the rat hairs. And the jurors bought the rat hairs and decided this is not enough to convict.
Yeah, you can see the elation there. There's a live shot of the courtroom, and you could see the face of Jordan Palmer just release a lot of tension once he heard that not guilty. You saw him there just moments ago, hugging his attorney. They put in really tough work in this case. Another quick thing, Marsha, that I thought was important in this case is there were things that we couldn't know. The video wasn't very good. They didn't talk of it. They didn't get the knife. They just gave the knife back to the family. Some other things that were the problem of the police. And I think that became a big factor, that we couldn't know the truth because the police didn't do their job very well. Quickly, about 20 seconds.
Yeah, shoddy investigation is always a problem for a prosecutor. You wish law enforcement would do better in their investigation because it would help you to be able to put up your case.
No doubt. They were inexperienced. I'm Michael Ayala. It's been a pleasure being with you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Yep. Jordan Palmer, found not guilty on charges he killed his neighbor in a shooting that began with a misunderstanding. He was acquitted on the single charge of deliberate homicide. In the charging documents reviewed by MTN News, Palmer told Belgrade police officers that he shot and killed his neighbor after Stephen Campbell attacked him on April 19, 2024. When police arrived, they found Palmer standing over Campbell's body with a gun in his hand. Palmer allegedly told the officers, "This guy attacked me. I blank shot him." Investigators say Palmer had found a piece of mail on the road and was going to the Associated address to place it in the correct mailbox when Campbell confronted him and accused him of breaking into vehicles, according to a report from KULR. Palmer denied the accusation and told detectives he opened fire when Campbell threatened him and started trying to hit him. So Jordan Palmer is now a free man. And congratulations to him. Let's just hope nothing like this ever happens again in his life right now. Next, a man is accused of trying to kill his wife in a brutal attack on the open water. If that's guys, if it's gonna come down like that, really, come on. Come on. Alright. A Florida man is accused of trying to murder his wife in a brutal attack on open water. Douglas Scott Nair, age 60, is charged with first-degree attempted murder for allegedly attacking his wife of 3 years on July 20 in Manatee County. This is Doug Nair right here. The unnamed woman told police they were on their boat for a fishing trip when she noticed his demeanor seemed off. Once they were 33 miles off the coast of Bean Point, Nair began fishing but became angrier when his line snapped, according to the affidavit. To avoid confrontation, the woman claims she got off the boat to float, but Nair then untied a rope she was holding from the boat and drove off without her, returning when another boat came into view. Once she got back to the boat, Nair allegedly attacked her, punching her multiple times in the head and stomping her. The victim told police she played dead, so Nair dragged her to the rear of the boat and into the water, where he began strangling her underwater. Nair allegedly stopped attacking the victim when another boat came into view and tried to drive off without her, but she was able to cling to the boat's ladder. The victim said when Nair spotted her, he beat her again and threw her overboard, but she managed to grab a rope and wrap it around her ankle while he drove away a second time. The victim told investigators that Nair continued to attack her while driving the boat back to the dock. When the boat slowed near their dock, the victim said she jumped from the boat and ran to the Holmes Beach Police Department nearby. She was taken to the hospital where she was treated for a concussion and multiple contusions per the affidavit. Nair was arrested the next day on July 21st. Days later, Nair was denied bond after entering a plea of not guilty, according to a report from WWSB. His arraignment is scheduled for September 5th, according to court records. This guy is, I don't know, I really don't know what to say about him. All I know is he I literally snapped and tried to kill his wife because his line snapped. That's got to be some jail time. That's all I'm saying. Next up in Nicholas Casotis' trial, his ex-wife testifies that Nicholas once claimed to be a widower. Nicholas Casotis' ex-wife took the stand in his murder trial and detailed a web of lies and deceit so deep that she said she never even knew his full name or that he had been married twice previously. Samantha Kolesnik told the court she first connected with Casotis, who used the name Nicholas Stark, in September 2022 through Twitter when he messaged her saying he had purchased all 4 of her horror fiction books. Casotis told her that he was an unpublished short fiction writer. What began as casual online conversations evolved into an emotional relationship by November 2022, leading to phone calls and eventual meeting in person in December of that year. Kolesnik testified that Casotis claimed to be a widower who had lost his wife and unborn child 2 years prior due to blood pressure complications and an undiagnosed heart condition. Prosecutors alleged that during this same period, Casotis had actually murdered his real wife, Mindy Casotis, age 40. Hunters discovered Mindy's dismembered remains scattered across multiple locations within a 3-mile radius in Georgia in December 2022. Casotis allegedly told Kolesnik that he was working on a big merger that required him to travel between Georgia, Missouri, and Delaware. He claimed his company was setting him up with housing in Delaware while he worked on an acquisition. The relationship progressed quickly in November 2022. When Kolesnik had a flat tire, Casotis paid approximately $600 for 4 new tires and 2 new headlight bulbs. When Kolesnik expressed concern about the extravagant gesture, Casotis apologized, saying he was out of practice after grieving for 2 years. By February 2023, the couple was engaged, and they married in April 2023. On their marriage application, Casotis claimed this was his second marriage, stating his previous marriage had ended on December 1st, 2020. Casotis also filled out the application using the last name Stark. Prior to the wedding, the couple made plans to purchase a home together, with Casotis claiming he would handle the finances. They found a house, and Casotis allegedly made an offer that was accepted, with a closing date set for March 20th, 2023. On the morning of the scheduled closing, Casotis left to get a check for $850,000, but never returned home. Instead, Kolesnik received alarming text messages claiming he had been in a car accident. When she finally saw him, he looked a little burned, half an eyebrow, she testified. She took him to the hospital where he was admitted. The house purchase was never completed, with Casotis claiming the $850,000 check had burned in the alleged car fire. Kolesnik later learned from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation agent Tracy Sands that Casotis had multiple wives, including a first wife and a second wife before her. She immediately cooperated with investigators, providing messages and photographs of Casotis' belongings. She also successfully petitioned for an annulment of their marriage on the basis of fraud. Cassotis, a former naval officer who once served as a JAG, was arrested in Lancaster, Pennsylvania on May 12, 2023, one day after Mindy's remains were positively identified through genealogy DNA. DNA, tell you, they will find you and they will get you. So this trial is going to continue on. I will get more as I get more information. I'll be sure to bring it to you in a future episode, in a future edition of BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded. And if it gets down to the point of verdict watch, I'll cover that as well. And finally, the big case I wanted to cover this week. Experts discussing mental health concerns in Georgia teen's double murder case. The Georgia teen in question is Sarah Grace Patrick, who is accused of murdering her mother and stepfather. A 17-year-old girl is charged as an adult in a double homicide case that is raising questions about juvenile mental health and the justice system's response to young offenders. Sarah Grace Patrick is charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault in the deaths of her stepfather, James Brock, and her mother, Kristen Brock. The couple was fatally shot in their Georgia home on February 20th, 2025. Criminology expert Dr. Debbie Goodman believes the teen should remain in custody due to the severity of the alleged crimes. And once more, let's go to Court TV for the coverage on this case.
An arrest has been made in the case. Kristen Brock's 17-year-old daughter, Sarah Grace Patrick, has been taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault in connection with the deaths of her mother and her stepfather.
Welcome back to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. This morning, we're giving a voice to victims and talking about what's ahead for 17-year-old accused parent killer, Sarah Grace Patrick. We're looking ahead to her upcoming bond hearing. And police say that this 17-year-old shot and killed her mother, Kristen, and her stepfather, James Brock, at their Georgia home back in February. In public, just days after the murders, though, she delivered a heartfelt eulogy. The video was posted to Facebook by a family relative.
I just wanted to say goodbye to my mama and Jamie since we never got the chance to. I was so used to you guys always being here to the point that I never once thought to imagine y'all not being here. And didn't have a single clue how much I needed y'all until now. Although there's nothing we can do to bring them back, we still have control over how we treat people with us today. I love you guys, and so do they. I'm sorry.
Now, that's not all. Sarah Grace also went to TikTok. That's right, she went to different true crime sleuths about her parents' murders. Take a look.
He doesn't know it. A year from now, our family will be torn apart, and I'll be far away, and we'll see or talk to him for 5 years.
Let's talk about this. We're days away from her bond hearing. Of course, she wants to be let out. You know how I feel about that. I told you right at the start of this show how I feel. But let's dive deeper into what kind of a potential danger this 17-year-old is. She's being charged as an adult. Let's talk about all of the different aspects at play here. Her behavior, what does it indicate? Does she need some serious treatment from here on out? Let's bring in our expert guest, criminology expert, Dr. Debbie Goodman, and psychology expert, Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Good morning to you, ladies. Wonderful to have you on the show. Let's start, please, with the criminology. Dr. Debbie, tell us what you see here with the behavior that's been alleged to have been done by this child.
Certainly, good morning. You know, the optics of this case, Julie and Dr. Sue, I think that's what's really unsettling for a lot of people. We have this 17-year-old girl. We don't expect a child to be involved in a double homicide. What do we expect? A 17-year-old should be going to school, learning, growing, developing, setting goals, interacting with friends and such. So when it comes to should she be let out, I say absolutely not. And we do have, Julie, as you know, and Dr. Sue, the top reasons, if you will, in these kid killers' minds as to why potentially they would kill a parent, first of which, of course, is mental health, many of whom have severe depression, psychosis, neurosis, schizophrenia. Others are grappling with drug and or alcohol use, abuse, addiction. The third of which would be any type of abuse going on in the home, emotional, physical, sexual. And then lastly, and interestingly, is about dating. You know, sometimes these teenagers who want to date, the parents are either against dating, period, until a certain age, or they're not in favor of the individual with whom the child wants to date and interact. So I know we're always looking for a why. I think on this case, we will get the why, but I would not let her out. I think she's a danger to others and potentially to herself.
Dr. Debbie, thank you for the assessment. I really appreciate it. Let's turn to the psychology that was behind this. Dr. Sue, how we wish you could personally evaluate this child, 17 years old. It stuns me to think this has been allegedly carried out by a 17-year-old, but that is the allegation. What do you think could have been going on in the child's mind if she did what police say she did?
Good morning to both of you. You know, Dr. Debbie said a lot of good things right there that I agree with. But let me be clear on this. This is a young lady who has had tremendous trauma, it appears, in her life. So, you know, there was a contentious divorce going on with her parents. There were drugs and alcohol and all these things involved that I read about yesterday. My concern with her is that what she did on TikTok shows a need for excessive attention. And that is why I believe that she should not be let out on bail, because there are some severe mental health issues going on here that need to be evaluated. And she needs to be kept safe somewhere. And if that's in jail, then it's in jail to determine what is going on here. It seems to me that she was just living inside of her head, probably had no one to talk to about what was going on in her world. She was on the move a lot, going from home to home. We don't know what happened in her own home, if there was any kind of abuse. But like Dr. Debbie says, she could be a danger to others and to herself. So keeping her in jail right now is best for everyone.
Dr. Sue, thank you. Really appreciate the insights. I have a clip from Sarah Grace's grandfather. And Grandpa does not believe that she could have done this. And it's important to point out he was not in the home, so he is not a fact or witness to this case. This is somebody who's just kind of speaking to her character and saying, and here he talks about her experience with rifles, but not with handguns. Let's watch.
She was here, and whenever we shot guns, they were rifles. I never saw her shoot a pistol, but I just can't imagine, you know, the accuracy that gun had in her hands. I don't think it could happen.
Okay, Dr. Debbie Goodman. It was a handgun, according to police, not a rifle. That's why he's saying that. Your thoughts on this, you know, young lady's capabilities in terms of using a firearm to commit this homicide?
Yeah, absolutely. The capability is high, Julie, and we wouldn't necessarily think otherwise in terms of what the grandfather would say, what the father would say. Of course, as you, Dr. Sue, the Cordies, and I know, there will be denial. It's just a tough pill to swallow when the family members have been lost. What we know about victimology, primary, secondary, tertiary. Primary victims, of course, Mr. and Mrs. Brock. Secondary would be the grandfather, the father, extended family members who are grieving the loss of their loved ones. And then tertiary, the rest of us, because it's just so unsettling and disturbing, again, to think that any type of double homicide would take place. That alone is so shocking. And secondarily, that it would be at the hands of a child. But yes, Julie, one is capable when one sets the mind to it, say in criminology, mens rea actus reus. First, it's the intent to do the harm, to participate in the killing. And then secondly, would be the actus reus, actually taking the action.
Oh, that's great information. Dr. Debbie, thank you for that. I sure hope that someone from whomever worked this case, if it was the local sheriff's department, county police, whomever it was, I sure hope somebody swabbed her hands for gunshot residue. When she made that call and they respond, I sure hope that that was done. Don't know if it was, because remember, she placed the call after her younger sister, who was 6 at the time, found her parents shot to death in their bed. It appears this happened when they were sleeping. And then she made the 911 call. So the details are limited, as you ladies know. Dr. Sue, going to the fact that they were shot in their sleep, at least as we can tell, shot in their sleep in bed together, sounds like an ambush by somebody. What does that say psychologically?
Well, it's a great question, Julie. I think what it says is there was rage and anger, and perhaps it could have been plotted. And I feel, this is my opinion, that a lot of more information is going to come out about what was going on in this home. And I think you're going to find that there were tons of abuse going on. This is my gut feeling. I think, we talked about this case, I think a week or two ago, you and I said a lot more information was going to come out, and a lot more family dynamic information has come out now. And, she's innocent until proven guilty, but I think severe abuse can cause a child to snap, and possibly that is what happened here. And I think that she has been enraged since she was a little girl. I probably would bank on it that she felt her voice was never heard in this family, and that she erupted and possibly killed them. But we shall see. It's a very scary case.
It is very scary. And of course, we always value your insights, Dr. Sue and Dr. Debbie Goodman. Dr. Sue, to your points, I just have to give our little disclaimer here. We don't know, we at Court TV do not know if this child was abused in the home. We have no idea. This is Dr. Sue's theory. Just want to be clear on that. And we will wait and see what comes out the bond hearing, because that's something we'll be listening for. Something like that could very well be said. We shall see.
We shall see. And with that brings me to my closing argument. And so here we go. As we're about to wrap this day up, this is my closing argument for you. When the home becomes a crime scene, give me 1 second. All right, there we go. When the home becomes a crime scene and the family becomes the suspect list, we're not just witnessing tragedy. We're confronting a deeper sickness, one that no headline can fully explain, one that demands that we ask not just what happened, but what are we becoming? When a teenager stands accused of murdering the very people who gave her life and raised her, we are forced to confront not just the facts of a case such as this, but the fractures in our society, our families, and our collective soul. This isn't just about Sarah Grace Patrick. It's about every child who feels unheard, every parent who misses the warning signs, and every community that turns tragedy into spectacle instead of reckoning. We can debate the evidence. We can analyze the TikToks, the timelines, the trauma. But beneath it all lies a deeper question. How did we get here? And more importantly, how do we stop this from happening again? Justice must be served. But justice without reflection is just punishment. And punishment without reflection is just repetition. So as we await the bond hearing on August 19th, let us not just watch. Let us witness. Let us demand answers, accountability, and above all, change. Because if we don't ask what we're becoming, we may not like the answer. That's my closing statement. I want to thank everybody for joining me. I promised an announcement, and I'm a man of my word. I said I had an announcement to make, and I'm going to make this announcement right here. This is the last BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded under this format. Let me explain. Over the years, I've heard a lot. I've got in contact with a lot of people, and a lot of you have said, Ernest Bethea, Last Outlaw, we love you. We appreciate you for what you're doing, and I do too. I love you. You guys, you're the one. Like I've always said, you're the guys that keep BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded running hotter and stronger than ever. You guys are part of that. Anyway, you keep telling me we appreciate you for all you're doing, but doing this thing once a week is not enough. Guys, I'm telling you, I'm here to tell you tonight. I've heard you. I've been listening to it. I've heard the echoes of a lot of you. And from that moment, I started planning. But I needed a good out, if you will. The out being, I needed a way to, I needed a schedule that I can agree with. Something that I can tie in, coming to you guys live, fulfilling my work schedule, and fulfilling my duties in church. Ladies and gentlemen, I have that schedule. So, here's the announcement. In case you missed it in the community posts, starting next Monday, August 18th, BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded is gonna be revamped. I will be coming to you at least 5 times a week. I will be live at least 5 times a week. Monday, I will take a missing persons case from the FBI and NCMEC files to open things up. And then I'm going to take another case where we shine a spotlight on the victim before we even touch the case that we're shining that spotlight on. I'm calling that Mondays in Memoriam. Wednesday, it's midweek. We're gonna pull a couple of cases together. We're gonna talk about it. That's the midweek bite. Fridays, the weekend will be here by 5 o'clock all across the country. At that time, courts will be in recess. By the time those courts go to recess, it'll be time for the truth to have the final word. That's what I call my Friday live, the final word. There'll be Saturday afternoons that I do a Saturday bite where I do the same thing as I do with midweek. I'll take a couple of cases together, but we're gonna have a little bit more fun though. It's gonna be a little bit lighter, a little bit less on the heavy, but you guys will have the opportunity to jump on here You'll have the chance to say what you want to say regarding cases. Maybe you don't want to even touch a case. You just want to talk about whatever you want. That's the Saturday Bite. If I don't do that on a Saturday afternoon, you can catch me in the evening. Catch me that Saturday evening where we're gonna stick a case. We're gonna go over it with a fine-tooth comb. Every case that we cover is main event level. That's why we're calling it just as I used to, Saturday nights main event. Then on Sundays, the first Sunday of the month, we're gonna focus on a case together. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna get your opinions, and we're gonna hear from you either way. Q&A sessions all across the board on that. That's our first Sunday focus. We'll do a second look at that from the 2nd through 4th and sometimes a 5th depending on the calendar. We call that Sunday's second look. There may be some things in a case that we may have overlooked. That's why we're going to go over those cases again. So there you go. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 5 times. I'm going live 5 times a week, and you're invited. This is the new revamped version of BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded, and you are all invited. Please come on in. The water is fine. We start August 18th with Mondays in Memoriam, and I look forward to seeing you here. As always, you remember where you are, right? The home for true crime news without the drama, where your opinions matter, lively debates are encouraged, where your voice is heard, and above all else, justice is served. And how do we do it? We serve it all up with no gimmicks, no drama, and no BS. Ladies and gentlemen, this is BETHEA'S BYTE. And even with the revamp on August 18th, it's still reloaded. I'm Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw. I thank you all so much. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, let me shout my wife out, Crystal Bethea, Lady Outlaw. She's got a birthday coming up tomorrow. Happy birthday to you, sweetheart. I love you. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the support. I will love you forever and a day. Let's do this again. I won't be on next week because I'll be putting the final touches before Monday in Memoriam on August 18th. But until then, guys, you all know what to do. And again, thank you for all the support. I love you forever and a day. Until then, you know what to do. Bite.
Thank you all for joining me here at the Drama-Free True Crime Destination. Be sure to follow BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded all over social media and get your coverage of true crime news with no gimmicks, no drama, and no BS. This is BETHEA'S BYTE, and it's reloaded.